6:30 Up next, here's Greg with the 9 till noon show. Morning, Greg.
Morning, Rory. Enjoy your long weekend.
I will. I'll try.
Okay, all right. It is the 9 till noon show. Our Friday panel is about to join us very, very shortly. But at 9 o'clock, it's time for a news update, and it's over to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. The Foreign Affairs Minister has described the DUP's collapse of the Northern Ireland Assembly as unfortunate and unwelcome. The collapse of the power-sharing government was triggered at midnight when the resignation of First Minister Paul Givan took effect. It meant the automatic removal of Deputy First Minister Michelle O'Neill. While individual ministers can continue with their duties, decisions needing executive approval can't go ahead. Minister Simon Coveney says the DUP's actions are premature.
What is so regrettable, unfortunately, they would have known that Mara Sefcovic and Liz Truss and people like myself and others have said that we have to make progress in the month of February. And unfortunately, 2 or 3 weeks before that target date for progress, the DUP have decided to take political action to collapse everything in protest, which is hardly advancing the efforts to achieve landing zones and compromise between all sides.
The MICA redress scheme could be facing further delays. It was already expected to be delayed until September, but the Taoiseach in the Dáil last evening says he would be extremely surprised if the scheme was not up and running by the end of the year. Leo Varadkar was responding to questions from Deputy Rose Conway-Walsh and says the legislation, which is expected to go through the Dáil and Seanad shortly, is a priority for government. The PRO of the MICA Action Group, however, has described the commentary as deeply concerning. It comes as a meeting between Minister Charlie McConlogue and MICA representatives is taking place tonight. Michael Doherty says the level of disorganisation within government at this late stage is unbelievable.
Usually when things go quiet, it's because they're still trying to figure things out. And again, it's back to who's organising what here. This is a €2.2 billion scheme, the biggest ever in the history of the land. And yet, at this point in time, we have one person that's in charge of it. We have no resources recruited against it, and we seem to have no plan for the rollout. And I think homeowners are quite entitled to be disgusted at this point in time.
More Donegal women are being encouraged to enter the race in the next local elections. Only 4 women were elected onto Donegal County Council in 2019, equating to an 11% representation, well below the national average of 25%. In the last general election, no woman was elected across the 5 available Dáil seats in Donegal, making the constituency one of 11 in the country without female representation in the Dáil. Megan Riley, Training and Engagement Lead for Women for Election, says their goal ultimately would be to see a 50-50 balance at a national level.
If you look at who's in the Dáil now, most of them will have gotten their start in local politics and, will have then made their way up through the ranks to the Dáil. And we still have yet to have a female Taoiseach, so we're looking all the way up. We're looking at the cabinet, the lack of female ministers that there have been. We think that this needs to be a real wave of change. And I think the will is certainly there. So now it's about the action.
Weather now, icy stretches in some areas this morning. It will be a cold, bright and blustery day with sunny spells and widespread wintry showers with the possibility of hail and thunder. Highest temperatures of 4 to 6 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
Mum, why do they call it Scottish cheese?
It's cottage cheese, honey, and I'm not sure.
Do dogs in other countries speak different languages?
Yeah, I think so.
When will we get there?
Well, we've got to fix the car first, but there's someone coming to help us.
Is it the man from Geneva?
Not Geneva. He's from Aviva. Oh, there's the van now.
For car insurance with breakdown rescue, it takes Aviva. Visit aviva.ie to save 15%.
Acceptance criteria, terms and conditions apply. Minimum premium of €310. 15% discount applies to new policies bought online. See aviva.ie for details. Car insurance is underwritten by Aviva Insurance Ireland DAC. Aviva Direct Ireland Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
The 9 till noon show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, the 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
And a very good morning to you. It is 4 minutes past 9 on this Friday the 4th of February, and you're very welcome along to another edition of the 9 till Noon Show. Our Friday panel will be joining us very, very shortly, but we want you involved in the conversation as well. If you wish to chime in on any of the topics we are discussing, or indeed want to raise your own, 086 60 25,000, WhatsApps and texts to that number, 086 60 25,000, or alternatively call Caroline on 07491 25,000. You can watch proceedings on our website, highlandradio.com. You'll see the links there, or on YouTube or Facebook. Just search Highland Radio. Okay, let's introduce that panel I teased you with. We start with Mr. Peter O'Rourke, retired consultant orthopedic surgeon. Good morning to you, Mr. O'Rourke. How are you?
Good morning. Very well, thank you.
It's great to see you again.
Thank you.
And we're also joined by Councillor Jimmy Cahirlock of the Letterkenny and Milford Municipal District. Good morning to you, Jimmy. Thanks for joining us. Jimmy, you might be muted there, I wonder. In the meantime, I'll say hello to Professor Pat O'Connor, Professor of Sociology and Social Policy at University of Limerick. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning.
Great to have you with us. We'll just kick off with what was in the news there. Stormont plunged into a fresh power-sharing crisis last night after First Minister Paul Givan announced his resignation, and parties in Northern Ireland have called for an early election as the PUP escalates its protest strategy against the Northern Ireland Protocol. It comes after DUP Agriculture Minister Edwin Poots ordered his officials to cease carrying out agri-food checks at Northern Ireland ports. So obviously Sinn Féin Deputy First Minister Michelle O'Neill, she also loses her job, and we're back to a situation where there is no decision makers in power there. I'll start with you, Professor O'Connor. What do you think of it all?
Oh dear, it's a mess. Is the colloquial version. I mean, I really wonder why at some stage somebody hasn't linked the salaries to a functioning Stormont, because really, I mean, it's very clear that very little business will be done. There seems to be no will to call a quick election. The election is due to happen in May. And it looks as if things are just going to wander on until then. It really is unacceptable, and it does look like a DUP stroke, I have to say. But my general point is that really a functioning Stormont needs to be linked to the salaries of the people in it, and that might concentrate minds a little.
That being said, I presume the DUP are, they're very clearly against any border up the Irish Sea. They have concerns about disruption to business. If they feel they are not getting or making any progress through regular means, maybe they're left with no option to take action like this.
Well, the DUP have got themselves into a very tricky position. Like, they were in favour of Brexit. They have been involved in negotiations. Really, in a way, their position in terms of the border up the Irish Sea, fair enough, but this is not a surprise. The border of the Irish Sea. And this problem as to, in the event of Brexit, what was to happen to goods travelling inside and outside the EU parameters, borders, this has been flagged over and over and over again. And really, I suppose I would have a lot more sympathy only for the fact they voted for Brexit. So in a way, they knew this was going to be a problem.
Peter O'Rourke, what say you?
Well, I think we all knew it was inevitable that something like this would happen. You have two parties in Northern Ireland who are so diametrically opposed. One who would like to build a wall rather than just have a border, and the other would like absolutely nothing. So Brexit has just focused their attentions and polarised everything so that one side and the other side are just getting further and further apart. And I think it was inevitable there would be some thing happening just like this. It was just a case of when rather than if.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like an election changes anything. We're not going to see the entry of 4 new parties onto the Northern Ireland political landscape from which you can form, a power-sharing executive, it's going to end up being, the same again, isn't it? It's all just a waste of time.
Well, it could be even worse, because you might have a situation where Sinn Féin have the majority and the Unionists won't participate at all. And I think that's reasonably possible. I mean, even if we do have a new election in the near distant future, I suspect you won't have a power-sharing executive for a very long time.
Councillor Kavanagh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, Greg, apologies, first of all, I was on mute when you introduced me. I was talking back to you, but...
It wouldn't be a Friday between 9 and 10 if someone didn't unmute. I just wonder what the appetite is, Jimmy, amongst the people of Northern Ireland to go out and, relatively cold, probably damp weather, voting again earlier than they had anticipated. Is there... Firstly, what do you think of the moves from the DUP? Do you have any sympathy for them? And B, what do you think comes next?
Greg, listen, this is very disappointing. I think it's never a good idea to walk off the pitch. That's what's happened here. They put this deadline of the 31st of January, and where that came from, I don't know. But by walking away, it's never going to be addressed. So, we've seen before, in 2017, when things collapsed, it took a long time to get it back together again. So I think it's just bad news. And the protocol is there and has been pointed out by both previous speakers. The DUP voted for Brexit, it's very hard. It's very easy to see all this happening and to see it coming. Brexit has been a disaster. The thing about this is the people of Northern Ireland. We need stability in Northern Ireland, and this definitely causes instability. And where these voids exist in Northern Ireland, you're always very, very worried about who's going to fill them. And it's just unfair on the people of the North who have suffered so much over such a long period of time. And we could do without this. People need to get back to the table. I think, in fairness, Simon Coveney has worked very, very hard. The EU have worked very, very hard to try and meet the demands being made about the protocol. They've tried to minimise as much as possible the checks on goods moving between the UK and the North and so on. And I think progress was being made, but as well in an early election, as you pointed out, Greg, yourself, I don't think we'll change anything. We'll be back to where we were and maybe worse. So it's just very, very worrying, and it's very, very disappointing, and I think it was avoidable.
All right, Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh there. You're also hearing from Dr. Peter O'Rourke and Professor Pat O'Connor. We're going to get a quick break out of the way, and we'll have loads more coming from our guests and you, of course, listening after these.
The 9 till Noon Show, brought to you by Bluebird Care, providing nurse-led home care services in Donegal. Call Bluebird Care 91295562 and bring care home.
Need a new part for your Ford car or van? Why not call to OMS Auto Parts in Buncrana? With a massive stock of Ford parts, you're sure to get the part you need. Free next day delivery on orders over €50. Call 074 9361924 or shop online at omsautoparts.ie.
Thinking of hiring a locksmith? Or do you provide locksmith services? Did you know that locksmiths must hold a PSA licence issued by the Private Security Authority? Locksmiths who operate without a licence, and anyone employing one, is breaking the law and could face prosecution and fines. For more information on how to get a licence or to report an unlicensed locksmith, visit psa-gov.ie. Issued by the Private Security Authority, the security regulator.
Foy & Company are delighted to welcome you back in-store in Ballybuffet and Letterkenny. Foy's homeware departments are fully stocked with beautiful new collections of wall art, rugs, living room, dining room and bedroom furniture. For beautiful interiors, Foy's will cater to your every need. And if you can't make it in-store, you can always shop online at foys.ie. Foy & Company, Main Street, Ballybuffet and Port Road, Letterkenny. For all your interior needs.
I am an artist and my medium is root vegetables.
Dawn, chef.
I optimise for search engines, so you don't have to.
Claire, digital marketing executive.
What Heaney did with words, I do with table plans.
Francis, events and promotions manager. They've all been explaining their jobs in their own words on behalf of Northern Ireland's tourism and hospitality industries. Discover hundreds of amazing opportunities in tourism and hospitality right now when you search careerscope.uk.net/NI. Explain them any way you want.
You know it's time. You've been thinking about it, talking about it, and dreaming about it. It's time for a new car. Come visit iMotors in Malin and Letterkenny for a fantastic range of new and pre-loved vehicles. iMotors, your home for Kia and Nissan in Donegal.
Highland Radio Time Checks, brought to you by Letterkenny Shopping Centre, the centre of shopping in Donegal. Free parking and shopping all under one roof. Letterkenny Shopping Centre, bringing you the time at
9:14. Now, the charges against all defendants in the so-called Gulfgate trial were dismissed yesterday. TD Noel Grealish, his high-profile barrister, Senator and former Justice Minister Michael McDougall, appealed to the judge in the Galway court that his client had no case to answer. Justice Mary Fahy concluded there is absolutely no evidence to show he was one of the organisers, and Justice Fahy then went on to say, really, that no one did anything wrong and that good people lost very good jobs. That's Gulfgate, line drawn under it. Or is that the case, Dr. Peter O'Rourke?
Well, it became such a big issue, and it cost so many people so much. I mean, we lost a commissioner, if memory serves, which was probably not something that was very good for Ireland. But I think it was probably a political issue more than anything at the time. And you know, if one politician attends and another politician doesn't, it gives them ammunition to fire at each other. It certainly blew up, and I think we were expecting a trial that was going to last for weeks, and it's now lasted only a matter of days. It's a pity it went this far.
The evidence, even from the get-go, seemed a bit sketchy to me. Ambiguous. Was there a politician in the room? Was there not? Was it organised? Was it not? Were Fulcher Island rules followed, or was it government guidelines? Or right from the get-go, I was saying to myself, they're not going to get anything out of this at all. It's a waste of time and energy. But perhaps they had to be seen to be doing something.
Well, the whole thing was fairly grey, and the guidance was open to so many different interpretations. But again, it was a political football. I mean, you had politicians attending funerals that they shouldn't and defending that. Then it was easier to have a go at a golf dinner than it was at a funeral. So, it was a political football, and each party was having a go at each other. And that's why it, I think, lasted as long as it did and went this far.
Professor Pat O'Connor, if this didn't go against the law, it perhaps went against the spirit of the law. With that in mind, the likes of Phil Hogan losing his very high-profile position for which he would have worked long and hard towards, Dara Cleary also springs to mind, and others lost out on important jobs. Do you feel, they have been legally vindicated, but do you think because of the greater sacrifices everyone else perhaps was making at that time, that the outcome, their career outcomes are justified?
Well, I mean, in a way, I suppose I was worried by the tone of the judge's comments that good people lost very good jobs, you know. In a way, either it was against the law or it wasn't. Whether or not the people doing it were good people who lost very good jobs was, to me, neither here nor there.
Well, it wasn't against the law. So, do you think Phil Hogan and Dara Cleary and others, they were hard done by?
Well, I mean, no, I don't really. I think the spirit of the times was that everyone people were making considerable sacrifices. And I do think there's such a thing as moral leadership, I mean, okay, I completely accept Kieran's point that there were scores being settled. Dara Cleary did behave with dignity. Phil Hogan less so, and that really there was an element you felt with Phil Hogan when his peregrinations emerged. There was an element of people, sour grapes and, tall poppies were the words that occurred to one. But I do think that there is such a thing as moral leadership. And I mean, in a way, politicians, because they're in positions of leadership, are expected not just to avoid breaking the law. They're expected to give leadership.
And in that, if you don't mind me sort of, because I'm interested, you're talking some of the top names in media were there, the top names in politics, the top names in business, out playing golf under the name of, the seats of power in Dublin. This while people were very much restricted in terms of, attending church. We did not know that you could perhaps have pulled up a partition up the middle of the church and had twice as many people at a funeral.
Yes, I mean, it raised issues of cronyism, the groups that were there, some of whom have never been identified, and unhealthy alliances, and also insider information. Another example of that insider information was eventually emerged that there wasn't a legal obligation on people over 70 to be quote-unquote cocooned, i.e. imprisoned in their homes. But most people did not know that. And so that eventually emerged after 8 or 9 weeks that it was not a legal requirement. So I think all these nuancing by those in the insider power, this is not helpful from the point of view of actually encouraging a healthy democracy and a healthy acceptance and trust of people in power, good people. There are a lot of good people who don't have power.
Yeah, and talking about not clarifying the laws sometimes to suit that 5K rule, I was at my wit's end trying to clarify that 5K rule and what you could and couldn't do. You could clearly move beyond 5K from your home. But yet even on the plinth, we would have had Micheál Martin misrepresenting the 5K rule, not dissimilar to the other stuff you're mentioning there. Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh, whatever else, it just makes it look like, them, which you're part of, and us. One rule for you guys, one rule for us. I know you didn't break any rules, but you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, well, Greg, we have a result from a court case yesterday, and good people did lose good jobs, and people paid a very, very heavy price for this. People were up in court. Phil Hogan lost out, Derek O'Leary, and so on, and people lost a party whip as well for this. And now we have a result here from a court case and saying that basically they did no wrong.
God, it sounds like you think we owe them an apology.
No. And what I think this whole thing is very unfortunate. It rumbled on far too long. It was very definitely a political football. There's no doubt about that. And I think as well it had an adverse effect.
With all due respect, Jimmy, a lot of us felt very, very upset about that. We were doing nothing. There were people, and I've spoken to them, sisters say in their 60s and 70s who did not see each other for the 2-3 years because they thought that was the right thing to do. This wasn't anger driven by politics. This was politics reacting to the anger of the people.
But Craig, people did just the thing that you said because it was the right thing to do, and it was the right thing to do to protect their own health and to protect the health of their families, and they were doing it for their own good. But equally, people looked at that and saw, well, if those guys can do it, we can do it too. And what they did was they went and did things that were far worse. They went and had house parties with 40 and 50 people at them and spread COVID all over the place. We had the worst COVID in the country for a long, long time here. Craig,
it would have helped. It would have helped. It would have helped if we had testing centres in different parts of the county. It would have helped if we didn't put a vaccination centre in a school that had to open in September, or we provide vaccine options for people in South Donegal or West Donegal. It would have been helped if the NPHET didn't have to be embarrassed into taking an interest in Donegal after saying the dogs in the street know what's going on up there. We were doing our bit with respect, Councillor Kavanagh, but we were kind of being somewhat failed, I think, nationally.
Greg, I know all about doing my bit, and I did it to a T. I lost a brother during COVID, and the family couldn't even go into the church because there were too many of us. I know all about this, but this here was, there was a lot wrong. There was a lot wrong in terms of setting a bad example, but I think it was blown out of proportion, and I think it was used by other people for the wrong reasons, Okay. And I just think it backfired for the people as a whole.
Peter O'Rourke, do you think it was a political football? Much ado about nothing?
I don't think it's as simple as that. I think nobody was above reproach in COVID. I think all of us bent the rules and interpreted certain aspects of COVID in a way that suited ourselves and justified it in any way we could. I think the greater good might have been served by people like Phil Hogan staying in their role, and certainly with the current issues with the protocol in Northern Ireland, I think the people of Ireland would be far happier if you had Phil Hogan sitting there riding shotgun on that issue rather than someone from Eastern Europe who is doing a good job, having said that. But if you have the ear of the Commissioner, it would probably be helpful for Ireland. And I think possibly the consequences of the event were far worse than the actual reality of the event. I mean, I think everybody in the country very few people in the country, I think, could hold their hand up and said they behaved and obeyed the rules completely. And I have to include myself in that. I mean, things like the 5K rule, I certainly think, having driven around Donegal, seen people out on bikes, etc., all over the place. So, I mean, it's an impossible situation where you have you're in such uncharted territory. I mean, the government did very well in dealing with COVID, but I mean, nobody had any idea of when the whole thing started how extreme it was going to be, and the fact that we'd be still dealing with it and coping with it 2 years later.
Was it a political football finally on this, Pat?
There were elements of that, but I suppose I really think that it does give a very, very, very bad example. Like it smacks of this setting up a partition which was open to particular points, but that the rooms were separate. I mean, all this is in the worst tradition of, political fixing, and it sits very badly with people. I do think that a lot of people will feel, hello, is the system really rigged for those who are good people who have power? I think it will leave a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, the decision, rather than the actual fallout.
All right, a range of measures aimed at reducing the cost of energy, healthcare and education is being considered as part of the government's plan to address the rising cost of living. The coalition leaders have asked ministers to draft policy proposals aimed at easing the financial burden sparked by record rates of inflation. Much of these record rates of inflation are driven by fuel prices. And I note that Shell has, in its last quarter, I think, or maybe it's over a longer period of time, had made its greatest level of profit in its history. But anyway, this news comes as the European Central Bank refused yesterday to rule out an interest rate rise this year, heaping further pressure on households. It is worrying times. I'll stay with you on this, actually, Professor Pat O'Connor. It's worrying times for families now. And it's not just us. You can see what's happening in Britain too, as it relates to the cost of fuel over there. I wonder how much the government can do, really, fiddling around the edges, and maybe it will be more, to ease the burden on people.
Well, I do think there is a huge problem, and what this €115 of electricity for everyone, I think, this is not really helpful. And the fact that some people really need much more, some people really don't want the 115 and they can't return it. It's not possible. And it just smacks of a kind of a thoughtless gesture. Energy is one huge problem. So are rents and housing. In a way, post-COVID, we are beginning to see, health is another issue, we are beginning to see some of the really big problems that were obscured by the panic surrounding the pandemic. And the government needs to do more than €115.
Well, in fairness to them, they are proposing that €100 energy credit may increase, double in fact, to 200. The fuel allowance season could be extended. A reduction in motor tax could possibly also happen, as well as discussions about reducing the VAT rate on energy and food bills with healthier fuels targeted. So there's a broader range of stuff going on there. In fairness to the government, they obviously recognise that it's going to be a difficult year for many.
They seem to be just aping Britain, who's offering, £250, although energy prices there for households are expected to go up by 600 odd, and in a way, like all this list of suggestions, it's just ball hopping. Vincent and Paul were on earlier sort of saying its basic social security rates need to increase. So there is a much more fundamental re-envisioning needed. Equally, a lot of people are recognising the impact of increased prices for diesel and petrol because they're going back to the office now. And so in a way, this is becoming a much more pressing issue. But it is almost as if the government has learned very little from the pandemic. You know, I don't feel there's any energy or imagination or real drive. And this list of things is just ball hopping.
Councillor Kavanagh, do you think that's fair? A fair assessment that the government's learned nothing? They're just ball hopping. Jimmy Kavanagh, are you muted?
Greg?
Yes, go ahead.
Greg, listen, this is a problem all over the world now. You know, we've had a long period without any inflation. And this is where we're at now. I agree with Pat that we need a more targeted response. That €100 across the board to everyone for energy and so on isn't a solution. But we need a targeted at people who need it most. But it's a new reality here. I don't think that you can blame the government for it. When fuel prices and so on rise, the cost of everything goes up along with it. We've seen all this before. I don't think there's easy solutions, but I think they do need to sit down and put together a proper package to support families that really need it.
Yeah, what do you think, Mr. O'Rourke, Peter O'Rourke?
Well, there's two aspects to it. The first thing is I don't understand why, in particular, diesel and petrol are going up so much. I remember a time when a barrel of oil was something like between around €120, and or $120, and they were worried it was going up to $150, and that fuel would go up to about €1.50 a litre. And suddenly, barrels of diesel or oil are still only around 80, I think, euros. Yet the fuel prices have gone up even further. It doesn't make any sense. In regard to the €100, I think the government are in a difficult position because people are suffering, and the people with the lower income are suffering most. How you actually try and compensate them is very difficult. But I think possibly something like an income tax change where people can get an income tax allowance for fuel costs might be an easier way to do it. And then for people who aren't working, social welfare benefits might be tailored to help them. But I think giving €100 across the board is not proportional and doesn't cover solve the problem. I think an income tax allowance for it might be a way of doing it, which would mean that it would be prorated for the amount of fuel you actually use.
Of course, this has all been, it was mixed in with the conversation about the income of Paul Reid. The latest I checked, I don't know, it might have gone up since, he's on €426,000 as head of the HSE. Robert Watt, his wage is about to tip over €300,000. And, when people are struggling and they hear about the initiatives being announced by government or being discussed by government, Peter, and then they see, the money that the two top guys in the HSE are on, it adds insult to injury for them. And also, too, people want to know how these types of wages can in any way be justified.
Well, to be honest, it doesn't bother me how much they earn if they do a good job. I think Paul Reid did a pretty good job during COVID, and so did NPHET. But the health service is a mess. And unfortunately, I think the people who design the health service, run it and try and improve it, get it wrong each single time. I mean, I've been working in the health service for more than 35 years and nothing has really improved. And the problem is that they make political decisions. I mean, Sláinte Care is an example of that. That is supposedly going to solve all the problems. It's just going to make things worse. And in particular, in places like Donegal, it's going to really make things worse. But the difficulty is there's too many people with too many different agendas trying to improve things, and how much you paid the senior management doesn't really matter that much. It may look bad from an optical point of view, but 100,000 extra for someone's salary isn't going to make a hell of a difference to the overall health budget.
Like you talk about, them doing reasonable jobs here and there. Like we find out, it seems, because of a whistleblower comes along or there's an investigation of terrible things that are happening within the HSE. You know, we don't need, people know the type of things we're talking about. Like, if people were running an organisation correctly, yes, there are sort of historic problems that are going to take massive reform to fix. But the basics, right, of being the boss of an organisation and having a lines of communications in such a way that these things are being picked up with and dealt with and being made public, rather than whistleblowers, concerned staff or investigative journalists having to embarrass the HSE into action on certain things.
Yes, I mean, these things happen. Unfortunately, a lot of it's down to resources and staffing issues. I mean, in Letterkenny, we experience it all the time because you cannot recruit people to work in the hospital. And as a result, services are stressed. I mean, our psychiatric service in Letterkenny, I know, is being stretched for years, and recruitment has been impossible. So if you have a need for, 10 people to fulfill a role and you only have 5, corners have to be cut to try and, do as much as you can for as many as you can. But that doesn't mean you're providing the service that you should be applying and the service that is needed.
But if you just continue to pay 2 of the top people more money, incrementally more money, where's the motivation for anything to improve? Why are they even employed if their roles are such that it doesn't matter what they get paid or what they do, because things are so bad they're not going to change?
Well, if you have a good person in post, you're more likely to at least maintain what you have and hopefully improve it. But I mean, you can't blame the senior manager if nobody applies for a job.
Yes.
I mean,
can you blame anyone in the HSE in management for anything, though? I mean, there is no blame or no accountability. So I think actually you can't blame anyone.
Well, I know who I'd blame. And the biggest disaster in the health service in Ireland was the establishment of the NTPF, as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. They probably put in excess of €1 billion into the private health sector, which has expanded. The private health sector, as it expands, recruits staff that are trained in the public sector, which means the public sector can't fulfill its role and has to outsource more to the private sector. So if the NTPF hadn't been created and that billion had been used to develop services in hospitals, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in. And now we have such a strong and vibrant private medical sector, which is hiving off as much work as it can from the public sector. We will never recover.
Right, it's a worrying prospect. Professor Pat O'Connor, just as it relates to the wages of the top people in an organisation where there seems to be very little accountability, you know that as soon as there's a controversy and you get down to who was responsible, all of a sudden the answers become very, very vague and hard to pin down. Between them, they're earning close on 800,000 a year, plus bonuses, 50,000 pension in Paul Reid's case. I mean, is that fair? Is it right, given the state of the health service?
I just think it's not acceptable. I really don't agree at all with a lot of what Kieran has said. Firstly, in a society, the wage disparity between the top and the bottom is related to all sorts of indicators of health and well-being. So it does matter. Right. Secondly, for example, the CAMS case, as in many of the others, the simple question as to what was the line management up from that junior consultant is not clear. I saw an RTE reporter, heard an RTE1 reporter who tried really hard to get Paul Reid to answer that question and failed. Well, I'm sorry, the HSE, it seems to me, is too busy doing minor paperwork, right, in terms of, for example, looking at the leaving cert results of testers, and has lost the plot in terms of in any big organisation, there has to be a line management. And even if posts are vacant, so for example, in the university, if there's a problem with the lecturer and the head of department doesn't sort it, it goes to the dean. If the dean doesn't sort it, it goes to the vice president academic. If the vice president academic doesn't sort it, it goes to the president. It's a basic organisational chart. And apparently that line management is not clear in the HSE.
Well, it's also then it's not clear as it relates to that case you mentioned. Are those that were supposed to be assessing, assisting, oversight of that junior doctor? Are they still in that type of a job? That answer is not clear. As it relates to the Brandon report, are people that missed things that shouldn't have been missed, are they still in similar roles? Well, we can't say we don't know, or yes, they are, or an investigation's ongoing. And that's even at one of the lower levels.
Exactly. So the question as to the adequacy of what has been the Taoiseach, everyone, Paul Reid even has agreed there are governance and management issues. Well, I'm sorry, the Chief Executive is ultimately responsible for sorting out governance and management issues. And it's much more important than asking people for their leaving cert results. So the next point I'd like to make in the Department of Health, what is really extraordinary is they can't give nurses or care assistants increases because it would have knock-on effects. But there seems to be no problem in giving a Secretary General in Health a top-up. Now, hello, will every Secretary General, why should Health be the only one that has a top-up for its Secretary General? Surely Finance will be next in line. So this was, quite honestly, a cronyistic deal. Now, we saw in the case of the banks, this year, we have to pay them to get the best. Well, we saw how all that ended. Right. I think actually what we learned was that the more people were paid, the less adequate they were.
But that's always the argument used. It's the same argument that was used for the wages of staff in RTE, that if we don't pay them this, they'll be headhunted by the BBC and CNN and Fox and every other thing. I don't know if that ever really comes to pass.
But interestingly, that same logic doesn't seem to apply in a whole load of other areas. Like, for example, we know there's a terrific shortage of nurses. But somehow, that doesn't, the logic of we need to pay them to keep them doesn't.
All right.
Work. Culture, I could go on and on about
we
this.
may come back to you and give you a chance to. I just want to bring Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh in. Do you think it is right, it's fair, that Paul Reid on 426,000 plus benefits and cars and what have you, Robert Watt about to get another pay rise, bringing him over 300k as the General Secretary, and also Paul Reid as the head of the HSE? Is that fair and right in this day and age, Jimmy?
Greg, I think the optics of it are bad. Let's be honest with that, because if you take it that we have a budget of 20 billion roughly in the HSE last year, and you have 284,000 and 358,000 that those top guys are earning, and that's more than, say, the head of the NHS, who has a population of 67 million and a budget of 122 million. We have a population of 5.8 million. So it doesn't, the optics of it are bad. But I do think there is an argument, the private sector, public sector thing here, because, just looking at, for example, there was a banker in 2019 that earned 16.2 million in Ireland, and there was over 34 people who earned over $1 million. So, depending on the qualifications of these people, it can be difficult to get top people into the public service unless they're very well paid. So,
okay, but if that is the case, but Jimmy, just on that point, it's an important point, right? If that is the case, right, say that what you're saying is correct, at least give us a framework or a metric or key performance indicators like they would have in the private companies that we're having to drag them up, so that we can assess and judge their performance in that job for that money.
Absolutely, Greg. I was just going to go on to say that any bonuses and those sort of wages, that they have to be based on performance, and there have to be key indicators there around waiting lists and around ED and around all of that. I want to as well just agree with what Peter said in terms of, I was 40 years in the health service as well, and there was report after report after report, all of them recommending the same thing, pretty much. We're down now to sláinte care. And I haven't seen any of those implemented in my time in it. They all fell asunder, and the same thing seems to be happening with sláinte care. We've also had far too much, mixing and matching. We went from a regional setup to, with 3 or 4 counties. We went from that to a national setup. We're coming back to a sort of regional setup again. And there's never seemed to be a plan that we go with and stick with and stay with. And the waiting list and all this, and it's going to be very interesting to see how we are post-COVID here. And what has that done to the whole system, and how many people have have been diagnosed and so on and so on. So we're into a very, very interesting time. But I wouldn't be overly worried about what people are paid if, as Peter says, they earn it and they can justify it.
Do you think
and
Paul
they can
Reid
justify it by showing results?
Okay. Do you think Paul Reid and Robert Watt justify their salaries at this point? Do you think they're earning that money well?
I don't think that's been shown. No.
Okay. Finally, just on this before a quick break, Peter O'Rourke. So to paraphrase you I'm not going to. I'm asking you, could I paraphrase you saying that it's so broken? Where would we even start fixing it? So what's the point worrying about, this money, which is pittance in the overall scale of things, because it's such a basket case?
You put words into my mouth, but I couldn't disagree with any of them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Okay, listen, thanks very much. That is Peter O'Rourke. You're also listening to Professor Pat O'Connor and Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh. More from all three after these.
Bluebird Care are hiring nurses and carers across Donegal. Call 9129562. Bluebird Care are sponsors of today's show.
For great fuel deals, contact Gortley Sales and Hire. Large sacks and trailer loads of logs. Also briquettes, coal, kindling and gas with free delivery locally. Contact Gortley Sales and Hire in Letterkenny on 9126276.
Every year in the GAA, something unique happens. First-class rivals suddenly become first-class teammates. Fierce inter-county foes turn into friends, and yesterday's opponents now have each other's backs. Grudges set aside, all of the best club and county players from every corner of this country line out in their college or university jerseys to play together, challenge together and win together. It can only be the Electric Ireland Sigerson, Fitzgibbon and Higher Education Championships.
The EuroMillions Mega Draw is back, and it's really big. It's actually massive. Tonight, the EuroMillions jackpot will be a guaranteed €130 million. It's just too big to miss. Play responsibly, in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Are you thinking of changing your car? Then look no further than Inishowen Credit Union for your finance. It's simple. A car loan from Inishowen Credit Union means you borrow the money to pay for your car and the car is yours. No hidden fees or balloon payments. Apply online at www.inishowencu.ie or contact us on 074 9361017. Membership of Inishowen Credit Union is open to anyone who lives or works in the Inishowen Peninsula. Loans are subject to approval. Terms and conditions apply. Inishowen Credit Union is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Irish fertiliser prices amongst highest in the world. For more on this week's Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
As fertiliser prices break records, don't miss our 9-page fertiliser special where we share top tips on how to reduce your fertiliser costs. Growing concerns in new department group could cap cow numbers. Farmers warn not to sell carbon credits outside the sector. And Adam Woods has 5 top tips when purchasing pedigree stock bulls.
Plus, we share tips for dealing with calving difficulties. Only inside this week's Irish Farmer's Journal. On sale now.
All right, a quick one on this. Schools in Wales, there's a number of them, have been selected for a trial which will see students in schools for an extra 5 hours per week. Depending on what you read, there's different motivations for it. The idea is I suppose it would allow for them to catch up on work that may have been lost during the pandemic. Also more of a focus on art and music throughout the course of the day, where ordinarily there isn't space for that. And then there is some talk that it might suit families, but teachers' unions are resisting it. It says it makes them effectively a glorified childcare system. But, they're looking at it. I know that England have been looking at it. Maybe we will down the line. A quick word from you. Don't restrain yourself to time. Professor Pat O'Connor, Professor of Sociology and Social Policy at University of Limerick. Is that something worth looking at? Or are the children... I suppose if they did their homework in school, they might get a vote from me on it. But what do you think? You're muted there, Professor. Well, it's not my apologies. You did it, but... Oh, you're not muted. Oh, can I just say I am so sorry?
Sorry.
I didn't have the fader up, and I was being a smart arse, and I am so sorry.
It's very hard to mute me, Greg.
I never want to. So continue, Professor, please.
Lots of people try, but it's pretty difficult.
All in vain.
Absolutely. I mean, in a way, the heading of this makes it look dreadful, more school. But when you actually drill down, and I read the report, the bit in the paper on it, and if you think about it, like children doing, they said, art, music, sport. And you think to yourself, an awful lot of middle-class children do actually these activities after school. And in fact, I know of schools where some of the teachers actually do the sports activities, for example, and charge the children for these activities. And that is fine if you are a middle-class person and have lots of money. So in fact, what could be going on, but I've only got the newspaper report to go on, is that these activities are being provided for children, particularly in disadvantaged areas, whose parents might not be able to afford to provide these activities for children. And you could see that the teachers' opposition might be related to the fact that a little independent income stream was being effectively, perhaps cut off, although in fact the report said that overwhelmingly the idea was that they would hire external people to do these activities, that it was not that the teachers themselves were being expected to do it. So in terms of increasing the cultural or aesthetic or sporting activities for children in disadvantaged areas, I think this is a great idea. And it needs to be clear that this is not just more school, okay? And that it is actually helping. I mean, we all know there's lots of evidence to show that children's social development was impeded by the whole lockdowns. They, particularly if you were in situations where there was no play areas, where children were not able to meet outside their own bubble, and these bubbles were quite small, that children's social development, and not to mention the whole disadvantaged, often there aren't these opportunities because the parents can't afford them. This does look like a possible idea, but it also needs to be faced that there is a problem in terms of what the EU calls the reconciliation of work and family life. That on the one hand, we expect people to be 100% employees, and we also expect people to be 100% mostly mothers, okay, to call a spade a spade. And obviously, with increased participation by women in the labour force, this is, it's an impossible situation. So something does need, now working from home and adjusting flexi time and all those things may help, but particularly for disadvantaged children post-COVID, I think this could be a good idea.
Is it something we should be looking at, Jimmy?
I don't think it's a good idea, Greg, at all. I think that, the school kids have a long enough day. If you take Donegal, there's 175 primary schools. Most of those are in rural areas. Kids are on the go from 7:30 in the morning. Some of them are not home again until 5 o'clock. And they're waiting for buses out in country lanes and country roads and so on. Children need to have time with their parents. They need to have time for sport. They need to have time with one another. And we shouldn't be eating in any more to their time. I mean, we're looking at giving kids a working day the same as an adult here nearly. And that's not right. Kids should be allowed to be kids. And I don't think that as well that we can overlook the huge effort that went in by teachers during the pandemic. I mean, some of them were even going door to door, looking after kids that hadn't broadband and so on. They set up lessons, they set up videos. They did so much, and I think it was very undervalued, the work that they did. There's also the government have set up that COVID learning and support scheme, where extra hours have been given to schools, and schools can allocate those hours based on the specific needs of one-to-one students if they're identified students that are particularly weak and have lost out badly during the COVID time. So So I don't think that there's any need for this extra hour. There's a lot of scepticism in Wales among principal teachers about this as well, and it'd be interesting to see how this pilot works out. But
we heard from Pat O'Connell there. We could probably then have a debate on the motivation. Whether it is over losing out on a revenue stream, or maybe working longer hours, or is it because they think they know their children best and they think it wouldn't necessarily benefit them? Peter O'Rourke, we've heard two sides there, one for, one against. Where do you settle?
Well, I'm old enough to have started school and had to go in on a Saturday morning. So the school week has got shorter and shorter and shorter. We now have a half day on a Friday afternoon. I'm not sure what it's for. I mean, I got half days, but it was compulsory sport. I think anything that increases the amount of time the kids spend in school and increases their education has a lot of merit to it. Ireland has one of the shortest school years in Europe. I mean, compared to the UK, they get about 6 or 8 weeks holidays. Our kids get about 12. Certainly in secondary school, not as much in primary school. But I think trying to get teachers' unions in Ireland to do anything over and above what they're already doing would prove very difficult. I think apart from the teachers who are involved in teaching, there's so many of them in the Dáil as well. So I think trying to force the teachers' unions to do anything to increase the hours they work in schools or increase the length of the school day is just going to get absolutely nowhere.
Fair comment, Councillor Kavanagh?
No, I don't agree. I think teachers are tremendously dedicated. They play a huge part in the development of children. As I say, they do go above and beyond all the time. We don't see half of what they do, and I think that's half the problem. We don't appreciate what teachers do, and I just think this is not good for kids, and it's not good for schools. I don't think it will achieve anything, to be honest. And as I say, kids are on the road from 7:30 in the morning as it is.
All right, listen.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much indeed. That is where we have to leave it. Time has caught up on us already. I can't believe it. But I want to say thank you very much to you, Professor Pat O'Connor. As always, it's a pleasure to have you on the programme, and I mean that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Take care of yourself. Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh, to you too. Thank you very much for joining us. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you, William, Greg. Thank you.
And last but not least, Peter O'Rourke, thank you very much. Great to see you, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, it is the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. We'll be back with more after this short break.
The 9 till noon show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
Which is why this collaboration...
Oh, hello?
Oh, sorry.
No, sorry, you're breaking up there.
Am I... Hear me?
No, you're gone. I can't...
Connection troubles? If you run a business, you need reliable broadband to help you grow, not hold you back. Vodafone Business Broadband, with always connected technology, business level care, and walkout working installation guarantee, ensures your business stays connected. Drop into your local Vodafone store today and ask your business advisor. Vodafone. Together we can. For full terms, visit vodafone.ie/terms/business.
Get fit this year with Inish Fitness Dunlow. They're open 7 days a week and they're ready to help you with your New Year fitness goals. Discounts are available in February on annual memberships. See inishfitness.ie for timetable, prices and membership offers. Inish Fitness Dunlow, the future of fitness in West Donegal.
Bus Éireann are recruiting professional bus drivers nationwide for seasonal work commencing April 2022. All you need is a full Category D licence, digital tacho and CPC. Route and fleet training will be provided. For further information and to apply online, go to buseireann.ie/jobs.
There are silent conversations that happen on our roads every day between drivers and older pedestrians like me. When we catch each other's eye to say, "Do you see me?" or "I'm crossing." But when people don't look out for each other, those connections can be missed. And so can I.
Too many older pedestrians are being killed on our roads. When we look out for each other,
we keep each other safe.
Please look out for older pedestrians. From the Road Safety Authority, visit rsa.ie.
Ireland is leaving diesel behind, and Kelly's Toyota is leading the way with our incredible range of self-charging hybrid electric cars. We've amazing offers, including contributions and trade-in boosters. And with 46 years of experience here in Donegal, you can trust us to help you on your electric journey. You'll never take a wrong turn with Toyota, Ireland's best-selling car brand. Visit Kelly's Toyota Mount Charles or Letterkenny today. Toyota, built for a better world. Terms and conditions apply.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Thinking of a sun holiday this summer with the family? Fly to Alicante, Malaga, Faro, Mallorca and Milan with Ryanair. Ireland West Airport. You're flying.
Okay, so some icy stretches in some areas this morning. It'll be cold, bright and blustery today, though not too bright up here where we are. Sunny spells and widespread wintry showers are to be expected, and there is a possibility of hail and thunder. Maximum afternoon temperatures generally ranging no higher than 4 to 6 degrees in brisk west to northwest winds. I'm going to get to all of your comments after 10 o'clock, but just a couple to bring us up to the news. Can't see Councillor Cavan and his colleagues being too hard hit by rising petrol costs. The travel expenses claims, courtesy of the taxpayer, will surely ease all our privileged politicians' concerns. Another, does not matter how much the top boys are paid. Great money does not matter. Employ more nurses and pay them more is that caller's solution. Greg, is it true these people's wages are more than the American president? How can this be so? Another, Greg, your guest says it didn't bother him how much of a salary the head of the HSE gets. A very arrogant comment. It certainly bothers the hard-working people of this country. Keep them coming in to us. As I say, we'll catch up on more of those after the news at 10 o'clock. But it is time to take a break for it. Stay tuned. Donald Kavanagh is on the way.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
It's 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the Highland Radio News Desk. The Foreign Affairs Minister has described the DUP's decision to resign the position of First Minister at Stormont as unfortunate and unwelcome. Paul Gibbons' resignation took effect at midnight, at which point Deputy First Minister Michelle O'Neill was also automatically removed from her post. The Assembly can continue sitting and individual ministers can continue with their duties, but decisions needing executive approval can't go ahead, and a Northern Ireland budget cannot now be passed. Minister Simon Coveney believes the DUP's actions are premature.
What is so regrettable, unfortunately, they would have known that Mara Sefcovic and Liz Truss and people like myself and others have said that we have to make progress in the month of February. And unfortunately, 2 or 3 weeks before that target date for progress, the DUP have decided to take political action to collapse everything in protest, which is hardly advancing the efforts to achieve landing zones and compromise between all sides.
The leader of the Alliance Party says it's time for the adults in the room to step up and get any remaining legislation at Stormont passed. Naomi Long is rejecting calls for a snap election. She says there's still plenty of work to get through the Assembly.
This should be about us acting like mature politicians and trying to deliver for the people who elected us. I feel like in Northern Ireland we have got obsessed with going to job interviews, but when we actually get the job, nobody's willing to step up and do it. And I don't want to rush straight into the next interview. I want to finish the job that I have.
The Taoiseach and Taoiseach have held talks with groups representing employers and unions on the rising cost of living. The government's understood to be examining cutting car tax, emergency department charges, passport fees and widening the medical card scheme, doubling next month's energy credit, extending the fuel allowance season and reducing VAT on some bills and foods is also being looked at. Dr Sean Healy from Social Justice Ireland says government should be talking to the most vulnerable.
No problem with meeting with employers and trade unions, but with due respect they should also meet with the community and voluntary pillar, which has the main organisations and networks dealing with vulnerable people in there. And that the community and voluntary pillar has sought a meeting with the Taoiseach, and we've got no response to that. And I think with due respect to them, it's a disgrace to see that they're prepared to talk to employers and trade unions.
More Donegal women are being encouraged to enter the race in the next local elections. Only 4 women were elected onto Donegal County Council in 2019, equating to 11% representation. That's well below the national average of 25%. In the last general election, no woman was elected across the 5 available Dáil seats in Donegal, making the constituency one of 11 in the country without female representation in Dáil Éireann. Megan Riley is training and engagement lead with Women for Election. She says their ultimate goal would be to see a 50-50 balance at national level.
If you look at who's in the Dáil now, most of them will have gotten their start
in local politics, and will have then made their way up through the ranks to the Dáil, and we still have yet to have a female Taoiseach. So we're looking all the way up. We're looking at the cabinet, the lack of female ministers that there have been. We think that this needs to be a real wave of change, and I think the will is certainly there. So now it's about the action.
The Cathaoirleach of Letterkenny Milford Municipal District believes Golfgate was blown out of proportion. The Golfgate trial ended last evening with the dismissal of charges against the 4 men accused of organising the event. The judge said independent TD Noel Grealish, former Fianna Fáil Senator Donny Cassidy and 2 hoteliers complied with regulations. The charges arose from an Oireachtas Golf Society dinner which was held in the Clifton Station House Hotel during a Level 3 lockdown in August 2020. Fine Gael Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh told the 9 till noon show today that the incident was used as an example for the wrong reasons.
There was a lot wrong in terms of setting a bad example, but I think it was blown out of proportion, and I think it was used by other people for the wrong reasons. I just think it backfired for the people as a whole.
Weather forecast: icy stretches in some areas this morning. It'll be cold, bright and blustery with sunny spells and widespread wintry showers. A possibility of hail and thunder with maximum afternoon temperatures generally hitting 4 to 6 degrees Celsius in brisk west to northwest winds. Showers becoming isolated early tonight with frost forming in some areas. Temperatures dipping back to between 0 and plus 4 degrees Celsius. Cloud will increase from the west overnight with temperatures rising. Outbreaks of rain will then develop. Tomorrow will be a cloudy and wet day with outbreaks of rain. Maximum temperatures a little bit higher, 8 to 11 degrees Celsius in fresh to strong west or southwest winds. That's Highland Radio News. We're back with news headlines again at 11 o'clock. Good morning.
The obituary notices for this Friday morning, February the 4th. The death has taken place of Martin Bonner, Reelan Bridge, Glenfin. His remains will be waked at his own residence from 3 o'clock, with rosary both nights at 9 o'clock. Funeral Mass on Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock in Our Lady of Perpetual Succour Church, Glenfin, with burial afterwards in the local cemetery. The death has occurred of Joseph McBurty, Rera, New Mills, Letterkenny. His remains will be reposing at his late residence from 4 o'clock this afternoon. Funeral Mass tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock in St Eunan's Cathedral, with interment afterwards to the family plot in Conwell Cemetery. The death has occurred of Billy Henderson, 3 Chapel Street, Stranorlar. Remains reposing at his late residence from 4 o'clock this afternoon. Funeral leaving his late residence on Sunday morning at 10:30 for Requiem Mass in the Church of Mary Immaculate, Stranorlar at 11 o'clock. Interment afterwards in Stranorlar Cemetery. The Requiem Mass will be streamed live via the parish webcam. The death has occurred of Charlie McLaughlin, mourning Mahara Beg, Burnfoot. His remains are reposing at his late residence. Removal tomorrow afternoon at 1:20 to St Mary's Church, Fawn, for Requiem Mass at 2 o'clock, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. Charlie's Requiem Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Family time please from 10 p.m. until 11 a.m. The death has occurred of Mary McIntyre, née Brown, 3 Sheephaven, Portnablá, Dunfanaghy and the Diamond, Lifford. Her remains are reposing at her home in Portnablá and will repose at her home in Lifford from 5 o'clock this evening. Funeral leaving her late residence in Lifford tomorrow morning at 10:30, going to St Patrick's Church, Murlough, for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Mass can be viewed live on clonleeparish.com. Family flowers only, donations if desired to the Lake House Patients Comfort Fund and Fulcara Community Hospital, care of any family member. The death has occurred of Martin Woods, Boga Rafo, wake and house strictly private place to family and close friends. Funeral leaving his late residence tomorrow afternoon at 12:20, going to St Eunan's Church, Rafo, for 1 o'clock Requiem Mass with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Funeral Mass may be viewed on parishofrafo.com. Family flowers only please, donations in lieu of desire to Pieta House at Donegal branch, care of any family member or Kelly's funeral directors. The death has occurred of Bridie Doherty, Mean Banned, Burton Port. Her remains are reposing at her late residence. Funeral Mass today at 12 noon in St Mary's Church, Kincashla, with interment afterwards in Belcrutch Cemetery. House private to family and friends only on the morning of the funeral. The death has occurred of James Doherty, Carricknamana, Killygordon, remains reposing at his home. Funeral from his home tomorrow morning at 10:30 for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass in St Patrick's Church at Crossroads, Killygordon. Interment afterwards in the adjoining churchyard. The Requiem Mass will be streamed live via St Patrick's Church at Crossroads at Killygordon Facebook page. Donations in lieu of flowers, if so desired, to Cree House at Galway, care of any family member. The death has taken place of Luke Hassan, Culmore Derry. House private and restricted to immediate family only, please. Requiem Mass will be celebrated in Our Lady of Lourdes Church, Steelstown, Derry at 12 noon tomorrow, followed by interment afterwards in the city cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of flowers, if wished, to the Maybrook Day Centre and Mary's Meals. The death has taken place of Mary T. McConaughey, Dobeg, Fanid. Her remains are reposing at the family home in Dobeg. Rosary tonight at 9 o'clock. Funeral from the home tomorrow, going to St Mary's Church, Fanavolti, for Requiem Mass at 12 noon, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. House private on the morning of the funeral. Family flowers only, please. Donations if desired to ICU, Letterkenny University Hospital, care of any family member or Eamon Scott, funeral director. The death has occurred of Bobby Fullerton, 18 Lissowan Avenue, Buncrana. Remains reposing at his mother Sarah Anna Fullerton's residence, Hillcrest, Raven, Buncrana. Removal tomorrow morning at 9:15, going to St Mary's Oratory, Buncrana, for Requiem Mass at 10 o'clock, followed by interment in St Mary's Cemetery, Cockhill. Bobby's Requiem Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Family time, please, from 11 p.m. until 11 a.m. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of desired to White Oak Centre, care of any family member or Murphy Funeral Directors. And the death has taken place of Teresa Bradley, Barnes, Termin. Her remains are reposing at her home. Requiem Mass this morning at 11 o'clock in St Columbus Church, Termin, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
OK, more comments here. The first thing we have to cut is politicians' wages. How many pay increases have they got in the past year, asks a listener there. Hi Greg, I'm on a carer's allowance and I don't get fuel allowance, so I will not benefit if it's extended or increased. Another, Greg, my friend got an extra €5 on social welfare yesterday. He got a rent review from his rent going up by €1.20. It's not much, but housing organisations send out a rent review form when they get any increase. I've sent an email on his behalf to government, but they don't care. They are weeks where I've to help him with his food because most of his money goes on ESB and gas. And there are organisations like SVP and the Letterkenny Food Bank, if he was in that area, that may also be able to assist. But are you saying as soon as social welfare goes up, housing organisations then review rent? €1.20 per week multiplied by €5, isn't it? Tax and diesel and petrol at 75% doesn't help. It doesn't, but it's a big money grab for the government, isn't it? Greg, they are planning to give the money to their mates in the utility companies. It's taxpayers' money. Why are you always defending this awful government? Well, I wasn't aware that I was defending the government. Obviously, you know, the utility companies are rubbing their hands together. They're not being asked to make any sacrifice whatsoever. We are getting €100 off, in inverted commas, it might be two, but it's coming out of our pockets as well because the government are using the tax take for that. Government are a joke, fuel going up every day, tax, says this caller. Another, Greg, things look like they're getting worse in Britain with rates going up in April as much as 50% on BBC News on Wednesday. It is pretty dire over there too. Greg, megawatt wages is just, they're in a different world. I see what you did there. Thanks for that. What are you waffling about? In Gulfgate, they broke the law. Why are these people making excuses for these people? There has been ordinary people in court for less. the bottom line is that might be your view, but it's the view of the courts that they did not break the law, and that's what we have to go by. You probably would have got from the tone of the conversation what our guests thought. Some had one view, others had another, but they challenged the law, challenged the case, and they won. So we can't say what they did was breaking the law, because it was found in court that they didn't, whether you like it or I like it or not. When the video of this party comes out, I hope all involved go, including the government. Oh my God, I cannot believe the defence of Gulfgate. My uncle, now deceased, was a good man who lost his life during COVID, and his good family had to deal with that alone as we obeyed the guidelines. Absolute disgrace. Pat is the only one talking sense. Herd Deluxe have launched a new colour range called Cronyism. Covers up everything. All right, thank you. Another caller says, and the focus on this good people word, good people died in hospitals alone with families sat at home in despair. This is nothing but the old boys club. These go for show nothing but elitism instead of leadership. And what you have to do is ask yourself, if you were invited, would you have gone? And I think most of us would not have, especially if you're involved in an area of work where you are carrying information, telling other people not to do stuff, for you then to go out and do the very things yourself that you're interviewing people discourage others from doing so. You couldn't go to something like that. So what about the DUP? Don't understand politics party. They will not be voted in again. People of the North are not silly. Jeffrey walking around like a proud rooster, but alas, no hens. They are a laughing stock. That caller believes that Sinn Féin will show him. All right, we will be getting the Cabinet's view on what's going on in Northern Ireland after we take this break. And the bingo numbers, stay right where you are. Good luck, by the way, if you're playing today.
It's time for Ncbi Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Friday the 4th of February. You're playing on the yellow sheet. The reference number is S5. It's game number 5. The numbers are 57, 86, 63, 2, 77, 41, 25, 20, 35, and finally 11. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI Bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Bluebird Care are hiring nurses and carers across Donegal. Call 9129562. Bluebird Care are sponsors of today's show.
You can pick up all the ingredients for a great deal at Tesco Mobile, like the amazing Samsung Galaxy A52s 5G, free for just €30 a month on our bill pay plan. That's a saving of $149.99. Plus, you'll even get 99% network coverage. This is Supermarket Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps. Visit us in-store or search Tesco Mobile. T's and C's apply. 24-month contract payable by direct debit. 99% population coverage. See tescomobile.ie for full plan details and T's and C's.
Beat the cost of Brexit and no customs charges. Do you need a UK address? For your limited company or personal use, Space Hub in Derry can provide you with your own virtual office or mailbox. Have your post and parcels delivered to Space Hub and collect at your convenience. Also brand new 20-foot shipping containers now in stock. Ideal for all your storage needs at our Springtown and Coolmore depots. Find us on Facebook or spacehubderry.com or call 04871 878077 for details.
Sometimes it's just bad luck, but sometimes it's negligence. From minor bumps to life-changing injury, every accident has a story. Time to call McElhenney and Associates. They'll assess the situation, advise on solutions, and lead the way if any litigation is to follow. From motor accidents and workplace accidents to slips, trips and falls, call today on 074 917 5989 or find us online. Let's get you started on the road to recovery. McElhenney and Associates Solicitors, Stranorlar. How can we help? In contentious business, a solicitor may not calculate fees or other charges as a percentage or proportion of any award or settlement.
With everything from pedal and electric ride-ons to go-karts and scooters, there's loads of fun guaranteed all year round at Tinny's Toys. If you've a kid's birthday coming up, Tinny's Toys can help make it special or get snow ready with a sleigh. Visit Tinny's Toys on Leck Road, Letterkenny, or shop online for express delivery at tinnystoys.com. Tinny's Toys, with so much more than just farm toys.
Century Complex is the perfect family day out. Kids will love exploring Century Play. There's lots of tasty options available at Backstage Bar and Grill. And at Century Cinemas, we're showing entertaining kids movies, rom-coms, actions, adventure movies, dramas and more. Call us on 074 9121 or visit centurycinemas.ie.
This is an important announcement from the Department of Social Protection. If you have been in receipt of the COVID-19 pandemic unemployment payment and are now returning to work, this message is for you. You must ensure that you stop your payment on your first day back at work. The simplest way to do this is online at www.mywelfare.ie. For more information, visit gov.ie/DSP COVID-19, brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Okay, you are very welcome back to the programme. Now, the DUP leader, Jeffrey Donaldson, has said it will be difficult for his party to form a government after any election if issues around the Northern Ireland Protocol are not addressed. He was speaking after Paul Givan resigned as First Minister yesterday. It took effect at midnight and also meant, of course, that Deputy First Minister Michelle O'Neill of Sinn Féin also lost her post. Mr Donaldson said there was now an opportunity for the government and the EU to step up to the mark. So the DUP effectively, obviously, are using this as a strategy to say that if you want politics, power sharing to return to Northern Ireland, then both the EU and others need to step up to the mark and get rid of this protocol. Minister for Agriculture, Marine and Food, Minister Charlie McConalogue, joins me now. They've drawn their lines in the sand, but maybe we'll get to that. This is the last thing anyone needs at this time. Charlie?
Yeah, good morning, Greg. And it certainly is, and it's a really disappointing step to see, and a regressive step at that as well. There is international obligations, and all of us now coming out of Brexit. And there's an international obligation on the British government and on the Northern Irish government as a result of the protocol, the Northern Ireland Protocol, which was very hard negotiated with the objective of trying to ensure that the Good Friday Agreement was protected in all of its dimensions, and indeed that the free trade between Northern Ireland and Britain and Northern Ireland and the Republic and the lack of borders could be maintained. And it was put in place for that reason. Obviously, there's been challenges about it. None of us wanted any type of checks in Northern Ireland, and the whole objective of the protocol was to minimise those. There has been very, very significant engagement between the European Commission and the British government, and indeed ourselves very centrally involved in that to try and work through the issues that are there in the protocol, and that work continues. But it's really unhelpful now to see this step taken by the DUP and by the resignation of First Minister Givan yesterday, and also the proposed step by Minister Poots directing the stopping of SBS checks. It makes the situation much more difficult, and it also jeopardises the operation of the protocol.
Do you believe it's electioneering?
I think certainly political considerations are very much feeding into it and are part of the consideration, obviously, in the run-up to the election. But listen, it's not something that is helpful. And I mean, we all have responsibilities, and government is always very difficult. You mentioned there the term, stepping up to the mark. We all have to do that every day, particularly in government. Northern Ireland executive is really needed by the people of Northern Ireland to manage really important issues for the public. Not just the protocol issue, but all other issues too. And right in the last number of days, in a few weeks, obviously the issue of cost of living and pressures on cost of living are massive for every country and every government. Is something we're considering.
And we'll get to that if you don't mind, but I just want to ask you a question about it.
But it's a really important point here, because these issues and pressures are there in Northern Ireland as well. The inflation challenges there, the hospital challenges there, the COVID challenge is still there, and you need a government for those things. And the other reality is here as well that it's not so long since the Northern Ireland executive actually got back up and running. It's only up and running since January 2020. It was, of course, Sinn Féin had brought it down in January 2017 on the basis that they wouldn't work with Arlene Foster. And it took 3 years then to January 2020 before everybody went back in with Arlene Foster still in place. And now, just about 2 years to the day since that, the DUP now have decided to pull it down because of outside pressures and because of the protocol pressures. But there is a need for all governments to actually get on with the business and to do the really hard work that the people elect them to do. And the work in relation to teasing out the protocol issues is ongoing. We're going to work to try and resolve them, but this is not the way to go about it.
Okay, just to ask you a question on that. I mean, obviously the DUP have said that it'd be very difficult for them to go back into government with the protocol as is. I think there's a general acceptance that there are things that can be changed about the protocol. They share power, or did, with Sinn Féin. They concede that as well. The British, though, are backing the DUP. And obviously, you know, Europe and Ireland have a stance on the Northern Ireland Protocol. So how does this get resolved, or in what forum does it get resolved? I mean, do we do talks anymore? Do we convene talks and get, you know, someone from the EU, Ireland, Britain, Northern Ireland around a table and thrash this out? We don't seem to do that anymore.
Oh, well, there will continue to be engagement between the EU and the British government in relation to trying to work through the protocol issues. This obviously doesn't help things in any way. The step that we've seen the last couple of days. Back in March 2020, Minister Poots at that stage had contemplated and discussed withdrawing SBS checks. On that occasion, the UK Agriculture Secretary George Eustace had wrote to Minister Poots, reminding him of his responsibilities. At that stage, we haven't seen that from the British government now. But listen, it's about keeping temperatures as calm as possible. It is a really challenging issue. I don't think this approach is the right way to go or the helpful way to go, but the way we'll resolve it is through the EU continuing to work with the British government in relation to looking at the issues that are there, but also ultimately it does fall back to the situation of the international obligations on everyone and international law applying. But listen, we just have to work our way through to try and deal with the issue that's there now.
You talked about the cost of living. I know your party and other government parties are looking at, you know, different ways and means to try and ease the burden. What can you tell us about what is potentially on the table to try and, you know, ease the burden, particularly on those that are being squeezed with every price increase?
You know, we're looking at all options. Obviously, we know the measure that is being taken in relation to the €100 support for each household, but we have seen towards the end of last year and coming in, particularly the start of this year, real continuing intensity in relation to inflationary pressures that are puts particular problems or challenges on families with smaller incomes and larger families. It's a real challenge, and we're very conscious of that as a government. When we framed the budget back in October, the inflationary pressures and the projections was for this year to be around 2 to 2.5%. It's likely to be near double that. And what that then means is that for your average family that's in modest income, they end up spending a higher proportion of their family income on essential day-to-day things such as transport, such as heating, and running their home. And we're very conscious of that, and the government are looking at it. It's one of our priorities. We're looking at it across government. There was the Taoiseach and the Taoiseach both had meetings with a number of stakeholders yesterday to discuss the issue, and it's something we are looking at how best to deliver support, particularly to those for whom this is causing the most financial difficulties.
Yeah, but obviously, you know, Shell's reporting record profits, and we're taking money off people, off the Irish people, to sort of give to them to ease the burden of Irish people, not directly, but through sort of subsidising utility bills. The biggest pressure on fuel prices is like the government tax take. You know, is there not something more sort of long term and meaningful that can be done to particularly address the fuel costs?
Well, I think the 95% of the fuel cost increase is coming from international price increases, and that's
but 75% of the cost of fuel here is tax.
And that's down to the price of oil and gas, and obviously the backdrop in relation to the Russia-Ukraine tensions is feeding into that as well. But we are very conscious of that, Greg, and particularly want to support those families that need it most. And that's why at government level we're looking at great detail at that at the moment. And of course, looking long term as well, it re-emphasises the importance of us going more renewable and more sustainable in terms of our own heating and energy capacities nationally, looking to develop the capacity of wind energy, particularly offshore, both off the east coast and floating wind energy off our west coast. We will see a transformation in our economy in the decade or two ahead in relation to the billions of euro of income generation that can actually mean for the country in terms of energy income from energy, but also in terms of moving us away from the dependence on oil and gas and the fluctuations that come around that in terms of price, and also real opportunities there as well for West Coast, for our own coast in Donegal, for harbours in Donegal, for harbours right from Galway right down to Cork, to create jobs in terms of servicing that industry.
Yeah.
We're working forward, but that's more long term. In the short term, obviously, we have to deal with the immediate pressures and what that means for families.
All right.
Can I just if I can just Greg, briefly, obviously Micah.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you a question in that, if you don't mind. That's what I was going to finish up with, because the timeline keeps slipping. September. Summer, late summer, then September. Now, Leo Varadkar's talking about before the end of the year. What's going on up in Dublin? What's delaying things?
Yeah, well, no, listen, I mean, Micah there's lots of work going on all of the time on different issues, but Micah is the biggest issue for the county, most important issue for the county, and the most important issue for me. And it's something the government is moving forward. I didn't hear the Tanish's particular comment yesterday, but I can be very clear in relation to where we're at as a government in relation to moving it on. Obviously, we had the new scheme and the principles and the details around 100% redress announced at the end of November. Also, the support for accommodation, etc. as well. Real significant changes there. So that's going to require legislation to be introduced, which will be brought into the Dáil by the end of March. Of course, the big piece and the big part of this as well is the updating of costings to reflect updated inflation. That's to happen by the end of February. And then another piece which has emerged, I know you discussed it last week. I heard your conversation play back with Michael Doherty from the Make Action Group and Councillor Mark McDermott in relation to the challenge around the National Standards Authority work in relation to other substances other than mica and pyrite, such as pyrrhotite and other issues. And the Minister had a meeting with the National Standards Authority of Ireland last week as well to ask and to emphasise the importance of getting the standards updated to get a full assessment of that. But we are stepping it out as quickly as possibly can. The Minister is expecting in the next 2 weeks to be able to bring forward the regulation that will enable the payment for those that have had paid for their testing to get that money repaid.
When will that happen?
Excuse me?
When will that money be repaid to the people?
In 2 weeks' time, the regulation will be through, and that will then enable the council to repay that then to the homeowners.
In relation to the 5,000 emergency works monies, when will that be made available for people to draw down and do essential
and that
works?
will, again, there's a regulation which will be introduced in 2 weeks will facilitate that as well.
And are you confident the council have a system and the people in place to start administering that money as soon as it becomes available?
Yeah, I think the council have the detail of everyone who needs that money reimbursed, and that will be a relatively straightforward process and a quick process once the regulation.
But as it relates to the €5,000 for emergency works,
or 6,000 and 7,000 euro in many instances for families that are awaiting back as well. And of course, that the key principle behind the scheme.
But so you're saying that there's a fund, isn't there, for for some emergency work? Are you saying that will be available in a couple of weeks?
The regulation will make that available in 2 weeks.
So how long do you think it'll be before members of the public might be able to draw that down?
I would expect immediately after that, then working with the council and working with the housing agency, where emergency works are required, that will then be available. Of course, the fundamental core principle in the scheme, which was agreed by Cabinet at the end of November, is the 100% redress aspect, and the fact that the accurate costs of building is updated every year, and that's to happen at the end of February, and that'll be one of the first things to happen now too. And of course, then there's many houses. There's thankfully some houses already been fixed well through, and those that are doing that work will be able to avail of the updated costings that will come there at the end of February. And the objective as well is to keep the scheme moving as well as we possibly can and as smoothly as we possibly can as it transitions from the outgoing scheme to the new scheme.
Okay, and you said on this programme about foundations will be included, and then it turns out they weren't. What happened there? Was that a miscommunication?
What I said to you was that foundations will be tested, which hadn't been happening before. Under the new scheme, foundations will be tested. The working presumption was, based on evidence so far, that the foundations have so far been seen to be okay, but that obviously is something that we have to be absolutely sure on. And what I also said is if foundations do need to be changed and done away with and replaced, that the scheme would have to be updated then to actually allow for the cost.
That's going to happen. It is, yeah. That's going to happen.
So
effectively, foundations will be included in the new scheme.
Yes, because the scheme will be updated to account for foundations if the foundation needs to be replaced. And that will be the situation that will pertain.
All right, and obviously,
yeah.
and I'll let you finish with whatever you want to, Minister. In fairness to you, okay. But obviously, we heard a timeline of June for when remote working legislation will be in force. We were able to give a specific date in that regard. Why is the timeline for this scheme so wishy-washy? Midsummer, September, before the end of the year. Why can't we have something definitive? Because as you know, that little bit of certainty would ease at least some of the strain and pressure on these families, which I know you want to do.
Oh, and listen, we do want to bring it forward as quickly as we possibly can. Obviously, the cabinet decisions were made at the end of November. The next step is the legislation, and then the scheme flowing from that. But there is the steps in between in terms of the accommodation costs, in terms of the getting the fees back and getting the emergency work as well, and also the updated costings. But the key thing is that we also work to try and make sure that the testing continues to happen, that houses continue to get fixed, that houses continue to work through the process. As we move from one scheme to the next. But the next step now will be the legislation, then the scheme being brought in. But we want to try and keep the work going. But in the meantime, but the key thing being here, Greg, that, and this is something that I've no doubt will go on for 10 years in terms of working our way through fixing every home. The key thing being giving every homeowner the confidence that their home will be fixed, that the full cost of it will be covered, and whether they're in line for next year or the year after that or over the next few years, that whenever it comes to their turn, they will and can have confidence that they will be able to get on with their lives in the knowledge that the full cost of getting their home fixed will be catered for and paid for and covered by the scheme.
All right, is that the point you wanted to finish on?
No, and just the final point as well, obviously from a fisheries point of view, Greg, I'll be announcing funding for Killybegs. Later today, we'll be spending over €9 million there this year in terms of further developing the harbour and continuing the work, particularly on the Smooth Point Pier extension there. It's the beating heart of our fishing industry, not just in Donegal, but nationally. So that'll be €9 million, which will be spent in Killybegs to further support the fishing industry. And as you know, that comes on the back of the scheme that I announced 2 weeks ago to support our inshore fishers and Pacific payments of up to €4,000 in terms of the COVID impact that they have experienced for those smaller boats that work inshore. It's the first time there's ever been a scheme that's actually directly supported their income. And also alongside then the very significant smaller pier and harbour funding of €35 million, which I announced 2 weeks ago. So there's we're really working hard to make the absolute most of our fishing resource and to support our fishers right across the county and right across the country. And that €9 million today will be a real boost to the county too.
All right, Minister McConalogue, thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it. And he comes on and we challenge him quite hard and stuff, so no harm in him getting out the good news from his department there in the interests of fairness. So it's good news too. There's a lot of people down in Killybegs who say, well, that's brilliant. And the peers work too. All right, let's see. Time for a break. Stay where you are.
The 9 till Noon Show, brought to you by Bluebird Care, providing nurse-led home care services in Donegal. Call Bluebird Care 91295562 and bring care home.
If you've got magic moments or great memories captured on your smartphone, now is a great time to have them printed at mcgees.ie. Simply upload your favourite photos, choose your size and finish, and McGee's will take care of the rest, with the results delivered to your door. Prices are from just 12 cents, and there's also creative options available. Preserve your memories today at mcgees.ie.
The EuroMillions Mega Draw is back, and it's really big. It's actually massive. Tonight, the EuroMillions jackpot will be a guaranteed €130 million. It's just too big to miss. Play responsibly, in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Lidl have something to tell you, but it's a bit embarrassing because we don't like blowing our own trumpet. We were the most awarded retailer in the Republic of Ireland at the Great Taste Awards in 2021. In other words, we're number one, like the absolute finest for great tasting food in your part of Ireland, according to the very knowledgeable judges of the Great Taste Awards. We won for loads of things, especially in our deluxe range. I mean, the judges were wild about our deluxe range. But, as I said, we don't really like talking about it. It's not about us. We're Lidl. More for you.
Are you troubled with painful varicose veins? Restore your confidence with vein treatment at Kingsbridge Private Hospital, Letterkenny. Our vascular consultants offer assessment, advice and options on the latest treatments available. So why wait? Say goodbye to varicose veins and hello to healthy legs. With appointments available, why not book your consultation today? Visit kingsbridgeprivatehospital.ie to find out more. Because life matters.
Are you worried about trees on your property? Northwest Forestry Services Ballybuffet are fully insured and have over 40 years experience in dangerous tree removal, tree felling, surgery and stump grinding. For peace of mind, call Northwest Forest Services Ballybuffet for no obligation quotation on 913233.
Highland Radio Time Checks, brought to you by Letterkenny Shopping Centre, the centre of shopping in Donegal. Free parking and shopping all under one roof. Letterkenny Shopping Centre, bringing you the time at...
The time is 10:38 and you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. Michael and Fanula will be joining us in the not too distant future, in fact at 11 o'clock, with a chat about all things entertainment. Now, I want to let you know that Ncbi Fire Service, they are hosting a car wash on Saturday, isn't it? Between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. and you can get your car washed at the station there. It's in aid of Ellie's Wish to Walk. It's Saturday the 5th of February at Ncbi Fire Station from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. and all donations are welcome, and tea and coffee will be served while you wait, and they say hope to see you there. So if you're looking to get your car washed, or maybe some other vehicle, go along to Ncbi Fire Station tomorrow between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. You can get it done and make a donation, and it goes towards Ellie's Wish to Walk. A very worthy cause indeed. I'm sure it'll be a huge success, and we wish them all the success. Okay, it is the 9 till noon show. We're going to be joined in studio by Don Pearson and Sharon Ward. They are a team of 2 members of the Big 4 in 24. It's a huge challenge they're taking on, and we'll hear about that after these.
Bluebird Care are hiring nurses and carers across Donegal. Call 9129562. Bluebird Care are sponsors of today's show.
At Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, we are now operating out of one new state-of-the-art showroom in Donegal Town. And we invite you to visit our new 5,000 square foot Donegal Town showroom to discover the latest eye-catching designs. Remember, at Cherrymore, you're dealing directly with the manufacturer, which means high-quality kitchens at factory prices. Start planning your dream kitchen or bedroom by calling Cherrymore on 074 9725 822. Cherrymore, 25 years delivering value, quality and service all over Ireland.
All children aged 5 and over are being offered a COVID-19 vaccine. Their vaccine will help to protect them, and the rest of the family too. The advice from the World Health Organization is that the COVID-19 vaccine is safe for children this age. So if you have questions about their COVID-19 vaccine, we have answers you can trust. To register or for information, visit hsc.ie. From the HSC.
Donegal Denture Clinic, Letterkenny. Denture problems, we can help. At Donegal Denture Clinic, we customise, personalise and tailor your dentures to suit you. Call us for a free consultation on 91 25 25 3. Find us at Ballyrain, Letterkenny, beside Rawson College. Now accepting medical cards. For all your denture needs, call Donegal Denture Clinic on 91 25 25 3 or online at donegaldentureclinic.ie.
The good times are back. The highly acclaimed Joe Dolan Show Remembering Joe is back in Letterkenny for one night only. And what a party it will be. St. Patrick's Night, Thursday, March 17th, eve of the bank holiday at the Clanry Hotel. The spectacular show starring brother Ben Dolan, nephews Adrian and Ray, niece Sandra, Karen Carroll, plus the original Joe Dolan Band will have you rocking and rolling in the aisles at the Clanry. Celebrate our national holiday in style. Tickets now available at the Clanry Hotel, 0749124 369. Remember, there's no show like a Joe show. Always a sellout. Book now.
From our soils, our sustenance. From our farms, our food. From our farmers, our ingenuity. From our villages, our unique communities. Our meats, our grains, our vegetables, our dairy, our eggs, our fruit. There is a little piece of Ireland in everything we produce. An Agri-Aware and Irish Farmers Association initiative promoting environmental, economic and social sustainability. Learn more at sustainingireland.ie.
Now, a group of 6 from Donegal are preparing to embark on a gruelling challenge of climbing the highest peak in each of Ireland's 4 provinces, all inside 24 hours. The Big 4 in 24 is a unique challenge that will see the group raise money for Little Blue Heroes. We are joined in studio now by Don Pearson and Sharon Wood. Don from St. Johnstone and Sharon from Mallinhead. Both of you, thank you very much for coming in and joining us. How are you?
All good, great.
Yes,
thank you.
good.
Yep.
I might ask you to move just a little bit closer as well, if that's okay. Perfect. Right, we'll start with you, if that's all right, Sharon. I mean, this is a big undertaking, but I suppose it has to be, doesn't it? You know, you have to come up with something big nowadays, don't you?
You really do.
Yeah.
And we're doing it for such a great charity. Little Blue Heroes, I'll just give you a little background on the charity. It was set up by 2 guards who ran it from their kitchen table. Now it has grown so much. It is run by a group of volunteers made up from the Garda community, retired members, their families, and members of the public. It's not state funded at all. They rely totally fundraising and donations. Last year they raised 350,000, and every cent of that was given to families with children who are seriously ill. In 2021, there was an increase of 60% in the number of people who are applying for help. What they actually do is they help families in practical ways. If their children are in hospitals, they provide fuel vouchers, meal vouchers. They help with, taking the children to Ireland on a holiday with their sick children. They help at Christmas, and the children themselves become honorary guards. They have a full ceremony, they have a uniform, the station visit, and there's a buddy system with local guards in their area, and the children just love it. They get so much from this relationship as well.
Yeah, and a lot of people will have heard of Little Blue Heroes, but a lot might be listening about the work for the first time, but not those who they've worked with. They're acutely aware and incredibly grateful for what. And to raise €350,000 is a massive amount, isn't it?
It's a massive amount, and it helps the families so much. There's 13 Little Blue Heroes in Donegal, and we're privileged that 7 of them are going to be with us tomorrow. For us, the children are the heroes. They're our heroes. This is why we're doing this challenge. If we can help them and their families in some small way, this is what we want to do. Every mountain we climb will be worth it.
All right.
And if I could just give a little shout out to the 13 heroes in Donegal. There's Jack, Caleb, Kiva, Jack, Owen, Cian, Reese, Ray, Michael, Josh, Matthew, Oisin and Noah. They're our heroes.
Talk to me about the challenge, Don. 4 peaks in 24 hours. I mean, even the timing is a challenge, okay? Not the actual effort, if you know what I'm on about. Like, I mean, if you said 4 peaks in 48 hours, I'd went, still, that's pretty impressive.
I think the closer it gets to it, the more we study it, we're beginning to realise that. It came about probably about a year ago. We all do our own things, we all do our own mad events. We're doing different ultra things and all the rest of it, and we're on the mountains regularly, and these discussions happen when you're out there on your own at times. But I think it was Cahill sent a message last year, and the message pretty much read, I have a plan. And we all kind of went within 15 seconds, I'm in. And we didn't.
Is it possible in the early stages of this that your eyes were bigger than your belly in terms of challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. It's getting, and even as the more we read about it. But listen, we decided we'd take it on. We're all used to the mountains. We're all doing long events. We're doing adventure events, and so.
And if all are you going to do all 4 peaks, or is there a tag system, or what way? All 6 you, sorry.
All
is it 4? 6
no, there's
you
6 of us. There's 6 of us. There's myself and Sharon, Cahill McGettigan, Damon Rogers, Fiona McGinley and Paddy Robinson. There's those 6. So we're all doing events, or the climbs. In the background, we have Sharon's husband, Eamon. So he's taking on the challenge of basically doing the logistics, but he's doing all the driving.
And you finished with the biggest one last. So you talk me through the 4 climbs then.
We start in Slieve Donard, which is highest in Ulster, obviously. Our plan is, well, not our plan, we're starting at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. And there's a reason, we've thought logistically about that and why 3 p.m. and why people are asking why start in the morning. But we start at 3 p.m. That should take it it'll take us 2 hours up and down, which gets us back into the car park and heading off to Lougnaguilla in Wicklow. So it's about 2.5 hour journey to that. Again, that's all down to Eamon. We get just a couple of pictures back in and sit and go. Plan to start there about 7:30, and so it's a slightly higher. It's 925 metres. So so it'll take a bit longer. It'll take 2.5 to 3 hours up and down, which leaves us finishing at 10 o'clock at night. So we do it's being done in June. It's getting dark at that stage. So we do our longest drive then is across country then to Mayo, to Mulrea. So we're planning to start there about 2:30 in the morning, which is dark. Without the help of the Garda Hiking Club, this wouldn't be possible, because they're giving us big support on every mountain, and they're tying in their association, the PSNI, they have a hiking club too, so they're going to help us on Donard and help with the recce, but especially on Mulrea, because they have said that they're going to put 6, 8, 10 men up the mountain, just standing with head torches on, so we don't have to worry about where we're going. Yeah. So when we get up, it'll be grand. Coming down, it'll be daylight again. Yeah. And that's why we're starting those times.
And last but not least, to Kerry.
Last but not least, to Kerry, just a wee handy carrying tool to finish.
It's only a kilometre.
So normally we reckon, or we've kind of all done it, but we can do it in about 3 hours up and down. So if everything goes according to plan, we have 5 hours to do carrying tool, because our legs are going to be stiff and our legs are going to be sore. So,
but Sharon, you're doing this as a team, okay, and you'll stick together. But I would say that perhaps with most of you, if not all of you, there's obviously a competitive streak that's going to help to drive this forward. Would that be a fair enough assessment?
Absolutely. Yeah. When it comes to our group, there's never a bad idea, no matter what.
I'd love to see the WhatsApp group.
Yeah. No matter what anybody suggests, yes, when are we doing it?
Right, very good.
It's great. They're such a positive group, and we've been getting so much help, and the support, even at this early stage, has been phenomenal.
It sounds like it feels like a nice thing to be part of.
Yes, it's really positive.
And obviously the chickens will come home to roost on the day itself, but you have a good group of people with you, and there's a nice buzz leading up to it.
Absolutely, and our families, getting them all involved. We can't do it without the support of our families.
Right, in terms of training, how are you doing that? I mean, you're doing your own thing, working together, or a lot of you doing this kind of stuff anyway?
We're out in the mountains regularly, and we're doing our own runs, but we're all doing different events from now on to the summer. Sharon's doing the 3cc cycle race, Cal's doing the 555. I think all of us are going to Kerry to do the Kerry Ultra, where Sharon's taking on the challenge of doing the 2-day event, and the rest of us are only doing the 1 day. There's the Mourne Wall coming up. The Seven Sisters, sorry, and Donegal.
That's all before June.
No, the Seven Sisters. I'm going next weekend to do Last Man Standing in Ultra Run in.
What is that? What's that involve?
It's a wee bit of madness too, but. You have,
I think all of it is.
You have,
put that caveat in there.
6.5 kilometres, and you have an hour to do 6.5 kilometres, which is pretty standard. Anybody could do it.
But do you have to do it in like a swimsuit or something?
No, it doesn't matter if it takes you 30 minutes or 59 minutes, as long as you're on the start line the next hour.
Brilliant.
And like the guy that will win it will probably end up doing maybe about 55, 60 hours. So when I'm going up to help them for the first 12 hours or so.
Yeah, unbelievable stuff. Right, so tell us how the fundraising mechanism works, because that's an important thing. It's clearly a great challenge, and it's great to be involved with, but it's very, very significant, and it's 6 Donegal people doing it for all the right reasons. So how can people support you, Sharon, in the fundraising effort? Because that's the real motivation here, isn't it? It's to raise money for the Little Blue Heroes.
Absolutely. As I say, it's run by volunteers. Every single cent we fundraise will be given to the families, and it'll be families all over Ireland. It'll not be just in Donegal, it'll be all over Ireland. So we have our Instagram page, we have our Facebook and Twitter, and there's an I Donate button on the page. So it's the Big 4 in 24. If you go into the page, you can donate online, and then after the launch, we have our launch tomorrow in Arena 7 at 11 o'clock, and there will be sponsorship cards as well. Every one of us will have sponsorship cards. So we just asked everybody.
So if you're related to you, or know you, or in any way connected to you, you can expect a call.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. A lot. I think there's a lot of people do what you do. I think it's like maybe more than we might imagine. This challenge, though, I would say that, we're not talking millions of people have taken on the Big 4 in 24. I would say in this.
It actually takes a bit of searching on Google to do that. It is a 4-peak challenge, but even. There isn't a lot. We're actually searching last night. I was searching
even
last
time
night.
frame.
Yeah. I was searching last night to see if there's a record for it, but I couldn't actually.
Give it a rest.
You said there now about being competitive, but I couldn't actually find one. So maybe ours will be. But there are other people who have done it, but it's taken more than 24 hours. They've set out to do it in 24 hours, but
So
and even
and these people, they were they knew what they were at. So clearly, it is tough to get it done.
It is, and we're under no illusions that it won't be hard.
Well, listen, we'll chat to you again closer to the time as well. The launch is tomorrow morning. It's the Big 4 in 24. It is a unique challenge. It's all for the Little Blue Heroes. And if you heard from Sharon and from Don as well there, they do amazing work with amazing young people. Last year alone, they distributed €350,000 to aid children and families in dealing with illness and special treatments, which is superb. And you can do your bit and support these guys and donate. So you go search generally any social media, by the way, it seems like the Big 4 in 24.
Yes.
And you'll find us, find yours, And the launch tomorrow, is that public, or what way are you doing that? You're going to be there with sponsorship cards?
No, we'll be there. As Sharon said, there's 7 Little Blue Heroes coming. We have a few celebrity guests coming. We have a few celebrity videos that have been sent to us as support as well, and we'll be contacting a lot of our friends.
It's a full launch tomorrow. Exciting times.
There's going to be a rally car there. There's going to be a Garda car there. There's going to be a bit of food and a bit of crack. And then thanks to Arena 7 as well, they have opened up the play area for the Little Blue Heroes that are there tomorrow.
Super.
So they'll get an hour to themselves as well with their families as well.
Absolutely.
So,
all right. Sharon is an absolute inspiration to all women taking up outdoor endurance sport. She's fearless, and it's a fantastic charity. The group is supporting Donegal women must step up and support our trailblazers, and I'm sure they do and will. Ask Don, is he the Pearsons who have the butcher shop in Derry? Anything can come up on this programme.
Yeah.
We're putting Sharon up on a pedestal here as a trailblazer for 70,000 women in Donegal. And do you own the butcher shop?
Much more important.
Of course. As an older person, I can't do donations online, but I'd like to drop a donation in there for him. So you'll probably see an awful lot of people in person with the cards and all that type of stuff. But how could someone donate if they don't donate online?
We have sponsor forms coming out as well. We'll have some there tomorrow.
And let us know as well.
We'll probably just drop a few sponsors into different shops who we're friends with as well, and just.
And sure, look at maybe they know someone who has a PayPal account or something, and they can give them the 10 or whatever it might be, and they can make the donation for them.
Absolutely. We'd appreciate everything, and we're so appreciative of the support that we're getting at the minute. So
all right. So hi, Greg. Can we just say how very proud we are of the whole team? We know the silly hours they train before or after work. So they can be home before the families wake, and all for the good of these gorgeous children and their wonderful families. We've seen the effort that has gone into organising this mammoth challenge, and we are behind you 100% from the husbands, wives and partners of Team Big 4 in 24, our heroes. Isn't that nice?
That's lovely.
Well, listen, none of it could be done without them, and it does say there the silly hours. Like should it be November or height of summer, we quite often are on top of Donegal or a mountain for sunrise, so that could mean leaving the house at 3 o'clock.
Absolutely.
To be there, that type. And then it gives you your day when you get back as well. So
we can't
just can't do it without the family.
No, the families are so important.
The very best of luck with everything.
Thank you so
although
much.
There's a bit of luck in there, but you're working hard. It's going to be hard graft and determination, and we'll speak to you in advance of it as well, maybe just to see how preparations are going and all that kind of stuff. But for now, Don Pearson and Sharon Ward, both of you, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Greg.
The 9 till Noon Show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
The Donegal senior footballers are back in action this Sunday as they look for their first win of the Division 1 campaign. Join the Highland team for full live match commentary from the 2:30pm throw-in at McCool Park in Ballybuffet as Donegal host Kildare.
Highland's coverage of Donegal in the National Football League is brought to you by Highland Motors Letterkenny, your main Renault and Dacia dealer in Donegal, with the iconic Dacia Duster, the family SUV for all your adventures. Available in diesel and petrol from just €189 per month. Order yours today. Lending terms and conditions apply. See Renault.ie.
The Euro Millions Mega Draw is back, and it's really big. It's actually massive. Tonight, the Euro Millions jackpot will be a guaranteed €130 million. It's just too big to miss. Play responsibly, in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Fuse box gone haywire. Water pressure too weak. Boiler finally gone kaput. The good news is, there's a local hero for that. Boilers, plumbing, electrics, locks and drainage. Take the hassle out of home repairs with localheroes.ie. Our online service connects you with trusted tradespeople in your area, and all work comes with a 12-month guarantee backed by Bord Gosh Energy. Get a quote in minutes at localheroes.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
As life starts to get back to a new normal, it's time that we look after what is precious to us. Are you struggling with your hearing? Your hearing is an essential part of everyday living. Hearing is our social sense and connects you to friends and family. At Connect Hearing, we're here for you, with our clinics at Courtyard Shopping Centre Letterkenny and Joyce's Chiropody Clinic in Dunlow. Our centres are open Monday to Friday, where you can avail of our hearing tests, wax removal and repair services. Connect Hearing, connecting you to life.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Ronaldo, De Bruyne, Cavani. You can now see both Manchester teams in action with Ryanair's twice weekly service to Manchester. Ireland West Airport. You're flying.
Okay, a cold, bright and blustery day with sunny spells and widespread wintry showers with a possibility of hail and thunder. Maximum afternoon temperatures generally ranging 4 to 6 degrees in brisk west to northwest winds. Right, okay. Please ask Charlie a real question that makes him a man of the people. Does he know the price of a bag of coal? That came in after he had left. Everyone in the top jobs gets so much pay, like the CEO of the RSA, the CEO of the council, and the list goes on. Another, would the big HSC bonuses be better used as a relocation fund to make public sector consultant posts in regional hospitals more appealing? Practical suggestion there. Look, loads of comments, which we will carry over till Monday, because there are... they're not particularly time sensitive and the points still stand there, but we're running out of time for this morning. It is the 9 till noon show here in your number one local radio station. It is Highland Radio. Michael Anfanula will be joining us in studio in the not too distant future, but at 11 o'clock it's now time to get a news update, and for the very latest we cross over now and say good morning to Michaela Clark. All right, we're having a difficulty getting through to Michaela. That's my fault. Come on, Michaela, come in to me. She's going to make her way into this studio here, and then we'll hear from her afterwards. Hi, Greg. Tell Charlie they just shift tax to green energy, hence still high cost, totally ignored. Your comments on 75% tax on fuel. And one more just before we bring Michaela in. Please ask Charlie McConnell to get the phone number for the Department of Agriculture Rafo and see if he can get them to answer it. No farmer can get through or get any assistance. That's one person's claim. Right, Michaela, I'm sorry for this. Give us the news there.
Thanks, Greg. A major public consultation is underway with a view to establishing a solar power renewable energy facility in Gweedore. Idris Nagil Tóchta, in conjunction with community development committees and organisations in Gweedore, are examining the possibility of developing such a facility at Gweedore Business Park. The Foreign Affairs Minister has described the DUP's decision to resign the position of First Minister as unfortunate and unwelcome. Paul Given's resignation took effect at midnight, at which point Deputy First Minister Michelle O'Neill was also automatically removed from her post. The Assembly can continue sitting and individual ministers can continue with their duties, but decisions needing executive approval can't go ahead and a Northern Ireland budget can't be passed. €9 million is to be invested in Killybegs Harbour this year, Agriculture and Marine Minister Charlie McConlogue says the allocation is part of a €35 million programme for capital projects in Ireland's 6 state-owned fishery harbour centres this year. €5.5 million will go towards advancing the Smooth Point project in Killybegs. A Donegal TD says the HSE must move to address delays in securing vital eye appointments. Deputy Thomas Pringle says figures he's received show that 45% of people waiting for treatment in Donegal and the surrounding region had been waiting for more than a year. As of November, there were almost 4,800 people awaiting eye appointments in CHO Area 1, almost 2,200 of whom were waiting more than a year. The Caherlock of the Letterkenny Milford Municipal District believes Golfgate was blown out of proportion. The Golfgate trial ended yesterday with the dismissal of charges against the 4 men accused of organising the event. And the government's examining cutting prescription fees, emergency department charges and widening the medical card scheme to combat the rising cost of living. Ministers have been told by the coalition leaders to come up with a list of proposals in the next fortnight to ease the pressure on households. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
OK, Michaela, thanks again. And we'll be back with more on the show. Michael and Fanula after these.
Bluebird Care are hiring nurses and carers across Donegal. Call 9129562. Bluebird Care are sponsors of today's show.
Beat the cost of Brexit and no customs charges. Do you need a UK address? For your limited company or personal use, Space Hub in Derry can provide you with your own virtual office or mailbox. Have your post and parcels delivered to Space Hub and collect at your convenience. Also brand new 20-foot shipping containers now in stock. Ideal for all your storage needs at our Springtown and Coolmore depots. Find us on Facebook or spacehubderry.com or call 04871 878077 for details.
Homeland Fuel offers, keeping you warm for less. 40 kg premium doubles or easy flame coal, buy 10 bags, get 1 free. 1 kg fire logs, 4 for €5. 12-pack wood briquettes, buy 2 for €10. Shop in store or online at homeland.ie.
I am making my Holy Communion this year, and we went to McConaughey's and Ballybuffet. I got everything I needed: my dress, tiara, bag and shoes. I had an amazing time with so many beautiful dresses, and Mum was able to pay a deposit for the perfect communion dress. For your communion day, go to McConaughey's Ballybuffet.
For your Valentine this year, there's a great selection of ideas at Kelly Centra, Letterkenny. Everything from chocolates and hampers to Valentine's gift sets, and a great selection of wine in the off-licence. Treat your Valentine this year at Kelly Centra, Mountain Top, Letterkenny. Drink alcohol responsibly. See drinkaware.ie.
Irish fertiliser prices amongst highest in the world. For more on this week's Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
As fertiliser prices break records, don't miss our 9-page fertiliser special where we share top tips on how to reduce your fertiliser costs. Growing concerns in New Department Group could cap cow numbers. Farmers warn not to sell carbon credits outside the sector. And Adam Woods has 5 top tips when purchasing pedigree stock bulls.
Plus, we share tips for dealing with calving difficulties. Only inside this week's Irish Farmer's Journal. On sale now.
Mum, why do they call it Scottish cheese?
It's cottage cheese, honey, and I'm not sure.
Do dogs in other countries speak different languages?
Yeah, I think so.
When will we get there?
Well, we've got to fix the car first, but there's someone coming to help us.
Is it the man from Geneva?
Not Geneva. He's from Aviva. Oh, there's the van now.
For car insurance with breakdown rescue, it takes Aviva. Visit aviva.ie to save 15%.
Acceptance criteria, terms and conditions apply. Minimum premium of €310. 15% discount applies to new policies bought online. See aviva.ie for details. Car insurance is underwritten by Aviva Insurance Ireland DAC. Aviva Direct Ireland Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Okie dokie, you're very welcome along to the last hour of the 9 till noon show for this week, and we have saved the best for last, arguably. And we arguably by, I'd say pretty much everyone listening. Michael Leddy and Fionnuala Rabbit, both of you, thank you very much for joining us.
So
Pleasure
welcome.
to be here.
It's good to be in. You walked up. What's the weather like? Quick live weather update.
Fine up till I got near Highland and there was a wee snow shower. So that reminded me that there's bad weather.
There's my dandruff. I was looking out the window to see if I was looking out the window to see if it was you. Sorry about that.
That's true though. Greg is always at the window every week looking mournfully for me to arrive
Like a
over
puppy.
the crest of the hill.
Like a puppy. I see the head bobbing and go, yay. Right, okay. Both of you, with the exception of Fionnuala, have Belfast on your list.
I've Belfast on my list
Do
too.
you?
Cinema, Sing 2, and I went to see 2 movies.
Cinema, Sing 2 in Belfast. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I went to
listen,
see 2
Belfast is the one that in this building has been a little bit divisive. I don't need to bore the listeners once again, but I'm going to. Caroline didn't
like
get
it. Yeah.
Michaela, far too much of an interest in it. And she's watched it 3 times. And Catherine, somewhere in the middle. Yeah, it was okay. Right. Fionnuala, I'm going to start with you.
I've just spent the whole morning giving everybody who would listen all the reasons why I didn't like it.
You did not like it?
No. I mean, it's not that it's a terrible movie. As I keep saying to people, if this movie if I had been told that this is a movie that was made by people that were learning how to make films, I'd be like, awesome. It was really well done.
Okay. Yeah, okay, yeah.
It just didn't have, like, with all the talk about it and with everything that was going on, I thought it was going to be emotional. I thought it was going to be, you were going to really be into it and care about the characters and the whole thing. And the whole way through it was a bit kind of nah. No, I mean, it was.
So, do you think this is a classic problem when something's talked an awful lot? Could you park everything you heard in advance and just view it as the? You can't. It just was not.
To me, it didn't have a real. Considering the Kenneth, because I always would have known Kenneth Branagh made it. So even if you went in with it with that, I don't know. Is it that Kenneth Branagh tries to do stuff on a level that none of the rest of us seem to be able to reach? Like, this is supposed to be at least semi-autobiographical. You know what I mean? I don't know how much of it, but that kind of feel that this is what happened with his family. They would have left Belfast in around the same time, so you'd assume, it was supposed to have that kind of a feel. Now, in it, the boy who's I'm assuming again is kind of Kenneth Branagh figure in it, which would be the young boy who's not a bad little actor or whatever.
Yep.
But like, I still wouldn't. I've seen much better kid actors. You know what I mean? I mean, he was good, but I mean, I don't know. It just had the feeling of when you go and see a play by a local theatre company and you go and see a play by the exact same play by, the Druid or some other,
So,
professional.
Can you see then why some people think it's just amazing?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because it's an idealized. I didn't like it either. I did not like it at all. But it's an idealized. There's a dreamlike quality to it. It manages to be like a feel-good movie about the start of the Troubles, and it pushes some emotional buttons with people. And I've seen comments on my own page last night from people who were kind of grew up in similar situation, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I get this." And Americans love it.
Okay,
it's an Americanized version of growing up in the Troubles.
Is that the problem then?
Yeah. For me, it is definitely. Again, echoing what Fionnuala said, I didn't like this movie. I didn't like the characters. There's a brilliant review on counterpunch.org by a guy called Eric Mann, who's based in Los Angeles. And he really rips it apart. And he says if this was in Berlin in the 1930s, focusing on a smug, complacent family who don't really have any problems, they're just paying the tax man. There's a lot of stuff happening around them, and we're somehow supposed to care about these people who aren't invested in what's happening around them.
And we don't know enough about them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's this issue with, first of all, I mean, obviously it didn't go up in this. Well, it did in the 70s, but I was too young. But I mean, like in the 80s, when I went to school, a lot of people had fathers that worked in the UK or worked in the US and worked in different places and came back and forth, and it was a thing.
It's not unusual now.
It's coming round again. That's what I've been told. But it was a thing like that. You'd have a lot of people that only kind of saw the father, every 2 months, once a month, depending on how far away he was working. In this, there's talk about him, he's working away, and then he can only come back every once in a while. And like, the mother doesn't want him to be working away, and yet she wants him to be bringing in money, and there's no work in Northern Ireland. There's a lot.
But that's a reality though, isn't it?
I know, but there's no, like, they owe this money to the taxman. There's no basis of why they owe this money.
Yeah.
There's like
do you need to be fed that though? I mean, can you not just say, right, there must be a reason, let's watch this?
Well, you do in order to. You need to know a little bit about a little bit of depth. There's no depth in these characters. You know, like his father and mother are living down the road, and okay, fair enough. You know, like you don't find out anything about them. The father becomes unwell in it, and
it is
like,
very superficial. It's a superficial movie.
How did he become? Why do I care that he's unwell? You know what I mean? You don't really find anything about. And I cannot. I'm sorry now.
I knew this.
I cannot cope with it at all. Kieran Hines would never be married to Judi Dench. She's way too old for him in this movie.
Right.
And I love Judi Dench.
I love Judi Dench.
She the way Kieran Hines and Judi Dench are supposed to be Jamie Dornan's parents. Judi Dench is make-upped up to look like Kieran Hines' mother, to mine Jamie Dornan's mother. I just couldn't get over it. You're watching. I mean, they're helping her up and downstairs. They're doing everything. Whereas Kieran Hines, if you know as an actor,
this is what was being whispered to me during the film last night in the cinema.
Stop.
They would never be together. In
a million years, they would never be together.
Right.
Nothing clever was going on then to challenge you to make some sort of
a
wider
point. It
point.
was coming from a different side, which is kind of more from the Protestant side, whereas a lot of these Belfast movies that I've seen in the past, I'm not saying others
they
out
would
there.
put a different story forward, yeah.
Right, okay. Well, this caller says Belfast is crap, the film that is. It's overdone. It reminded me of The Commitments, typical of how movies are made today. You could write the cringe script yourself, too much emphasis on small points, no imagination in it. I wouldn't go next door to see it.
That's a pretty good review.
It's harsh.
It's a pretty good review.
Well, this is a shocker because, as I said, I thought it was quite divisive, but decisive.
Critics love
but
it.
I'm starting to get to the point now where I'm wondering: has anyone else enjoyed it except Michaela?
Well,
I'm hanging all my hat
on the fact that Michaela loves it.
Loves it.
Well,
do I need to go to the back door? Where's Michaela waiting outside? Do we need to worry? Can I get
her?
Is she prepared to defend herself, Caroline? I don't know. Or the film, for that matter. Maybe there's something we're missing. I don't know.
Reviewers like it. It's got 87% on Rotten
There's
Tomatoes.
talk that Jamie Dornan is going to be up for an Oscar for it, and
Never.
you're kind of like,
Never.
I
couldn't believe that.
I'm staggered by that information.
No.
Okay.
He until the last kind of 10 minutes of the movie, he could have been anybody. You know what I mean? As in, he didn't.
By the last 10 minutes, I was so fed up with the characters and some of the silly stuff. I can't spoil it here.
There's a song in it, though. Was that not
just at the end?
Yeah. Oh, God. But that wasn't the worst. There was a silly bit as well.
The worst. I thought that was a high point. Sorry. And I mean that genuinely.
I know.
No. Well, if you're a Jamie Dornan fan, it was a high point.
Yeah.
But no, I know the part
silly.
even that Michael's
Silly.
talking about there. There's different things that happened in it, and you were just kind of like, and it was this close to being Ada Begoncha, but set in Belfast.
Right. Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
And we know you have a problem with that.
Just on the cusp of being that, and you're like, they did not make that.
So
movie
dare I
for-
ask, what would you give it out of 10? Do not say 6.
Oh no, that's about as much as I would do.
Well,
I
you
mean,
can't
people
say 6
like
because
it.
6 is quite good.
I know, but some people seem to be
But what
enjoying
do you
it. And that,
think?
I mean, if somebody said to me, "Will I go and see it?" I'd be like, if it was on,
I wouldn't
if it was on
recommend it, no.
RTE, maybe, but I'd record it so you could fast forward through it.
So
I would, if you're going to make me give it a lower score, then
No.
I would probably only give it like a 4 or a 5. Then
5. We'll go with 5. 5 out of
like
6.
it's not watchable. It's just
It's not.
you're just not
Cinematography
gonna-
is very good.
What
It's
are
a
you
beautiful,
giving it then?
about the same, about a 5.
Right,
It's just
okay.
this middle. It's below average from me. I know I said to you last night 6, but I've thought
So
about it.
finally, sorry to labour this, right?
Go on.
Then why? What is it that people love that? Can you see what people loved about it that didn't hit home for you guys?
Yes, I think it is that dreamlike thing. I think the American market will lap it up. The American critics will love it. They are lapping it up. And I think anyone who might relate to the subject matter might like it without thinking too much about whether or not they like the characters. They might be like, oh, I identify with this.
Yeah,
so I think that's the answer. I think that's
it's
what it is.
dedicated through it and after it, for those that left, for those that stayed, and for those that were lost. So I mean,
So it
I
resonates, but
fully
it doesn't sound authentic from what you're coming from. But
No,
obviously, it was enough.
Well, and I fully hold up my hand in that I do not have an emotional attachment in that sense to the subject matter. You know what I mean? Growing up where I did and everything
Understood,
like that.
yeah, it's not-
I have
But
a
you
slight
shouldn't
attachment.
have to if the film is good. If a film is good, it should make you care. I mean, they could be living on Mars, and if it's a good movie, you might empathise with a Civil
Right,
War
okay.
scenario.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen for
All
me.
right, anyone out there with alternative views? 086 60 25,000. Mary on Facebook says, "Hi all, I started watching Clarice on Alibi. Has your
Ooh.
panel watched it? It's very good."
Yes. Clarice on Alibi is... there's a few things on Alibi at the moment that are really good new detective-y ones, but Clarice is one of them.
Oh, you have it actually on your list.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
it's been there now for a while because it's about 4 or 5 weeks in, which is fine. But basically what it is it's after Silence of the Lambs, and it is the FBI agent Clarice that was the main part of it, played by Jodie Foster, if I remember correctly. And this is kind of the next stage in her career.
Okay.
So she, if anybody remembers the original Silence of the Lambs when it came out, Clarice was like a junior, just kind of training
She was
wheels
pulled
off.
out
She was
of
like a probate
training
agent,
college, yeah.
and they wanted her because they hadn't too many women that were doing that kind of profiling and that, if I remember. It's so long since I've seen Silence of the Lambs. But that was it anyway. So then, and in this then is that the whole case of Billy Bob, I think, wasn't that the name of the guy that was in the Silence of the Lambs? But the bad guy in that whole case is over. She's trying to move on with her career. She's now tainted by it, through some people thinking it's great, through the press thinking that she was amazing, through the mother of the girl that was down the well the whole way through Silence of the Lambs.
The senator.
Yeah, so the senator now is in charge. She's in justice or whatever, and she's in charge of putting together this big group, this specialised group that are going to deal with big issues around the place. And she makes sure that Clarice is put on this. Is she good enough? Is she not? And then it's all these different kind of cases. I was a bit kind of
it's episodic. Every episode is a different case. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a different case all the time, but it's kind of her progression. But there's a lot of like scars and stuff coming from the movie that you see coming through.
Is it a big production? Because if something's... This is probably... I haven't really watched enough to even make this judgment, but it's almost like, Alibi is where, the really grainy, TV film
Alibi
kind
has
of stuff
really
goes.
improved. Alibi used to be originally was I would 100% have said that it was things that were now love it, but I can understand why other people might. Inspector George Gently was on it. You watched like Father Brown.
Yeah, the older.
You watched lots of different things. Then all of a sudden it went through a phase where it was just picking up on American TV that maybe had been dropped. So you had a lot of stuff that was coming up on it. You'd have things like Rizzoli and Isles cast, all these just pro forma things. But they are doing some really good stuff now. So you've Clarice on it at the moment, which is really well done, really well produced in American. You'll recognise lots of different actors. Again, not necessarily huge, but a lot of actors that you recognise from different shows that show up in it. It's very well done, very shot. Now, it's it is about murder, and it doesn't. It takes the top end of it. I wouldn't be sitting down with your kids to watch it, that kind of thing. There's another one that was on Ragdoll that Alibi made themselves. It's finished, but they're showing it at night. It was quite gruesome, but it was really well done.
Okay.
And they make it themselves, so they're getting into the TV production, but staying within their genre, which is all this kind of detective.
Well, I like that stuff. I'm definitely going to check out
so you
Clarice.
can get both kinds of stuff there. You can, it's where I watch Hudson and Rex.
Okay.
So it covers all the gambit. It's got your light detective to your...
How far into that are you now? You must be like season 2.
Oh, it's only... I'm waiting for season 4 to come out.
Season 3. Okay, very good.
I'm in it now. I'm in it to win it.
Right, Afterlife on Netflix, Michael.
This is Ricky Gervais's show. This is a big talking point. It came back for season 3 recently. Speaking of things that are divisive, Ricky Gervais is very divisive. I'm watching the show at the moment, watching through season 2, getting ready for season 3. I liked season 1 to some degree, but again with season 2 I'm noticing that he's just repeating what he does, and that is Gervais sets up this scenario where a guy takes pot shots at things that clearly annoy Gervais. So in one episode, the guy who's trying to get on with his life after the passing of his wife, he goes to like a yoga thing, but the yoga guy is just talking rubbish. So there's a big point where he stands up and calls him out on it.
Yeah.
Then there's another episode where he kind of has a pop shot at local drama groups because of all that.
But that's and he has a pop at Jonathan. But is that not what's good about it? Because when it's a long time since I watched the first series, but I thought what it was like a long play format of jokes or observational humour, or,
stuff.
Little thing. I mean, is that?
But he's doing it again. I agree. Like he's doing now that I'm watching season 2, I'm like, it's almost like I've accidentally pressed play on season 1 episode 3.
You never got involved emotionally in the side of it, because it's an incredibly emotional program and deals with very core issues. But your focus is on him having a go at amateur dramatics.
I think the emotions are probably missing from season 2 because if you remember season 1, it ended with a very climactic, cathartic moment. So for season 2, he's moved past that. In fact, I'm kind of surprised. I was surprised at the time that they would go for a season 2.
It was so popular they had to.
They had to, yeah. But I wonder, is there a story to be told? Now, in midway point of season 2, there is the start of a story arc where, it's not a spoiler, the newspaper might be in danger of getting shut down. So that might be what we're supposed to get invested in season 2. But I think a lot of the emotional stuff of season 1 has been resolved. It'll probably come back to bite him on the behind.
There's season 3's out, isn't it?
Season 3 is out.
Is it possible that season 2 is sort of
setting it up? It's interesting to look at Rotten Tomatoes. When you look at the reviews from the critics, it goes down. It starts off like 77, I think, 70 something, and then by the time you get to season 3, it's like 52.
Right. Okay.
So I think it may have worn out its welcome. It's one of those things where if he had stopped at season 1, we'd all still go.
But the problem is Netflix have said, by the way, there's a bucket of money, and it doesn't have a bottom. Go and write.
Go for it.
2 and 3. And did he have season 1, 2, and 3 laid out in his head, or did he just say, right, how do I?
People do love it. I mean, I had a chat with somebody who was at a group of people, and as you said, the people who are touched by it and have watched it to the end love this show. And love the guy and love his dog and see that life he's built.
He is a character, though, for some people that can't do no wrong, even though blatantly he's doing wrong. You know, in other words, it's not that good, but there's some people who are so loyal to what he stands for and how he speaks.
Yeah.
Well, friends of mine were said that it would happen, that they felt like you felt. Season 1 was excellent. Season 2 kind of dropped off a bit.
Yeah.
But there is an emotional thing in it because they think it's more he's got a relationship with his dad and different things like that.
Yes.
That's supposed to come into 2. But then in season 3, it's nearly the redemption season. So it's kind of when he supposedly, and looking at the trailers and stuff, he starts looking at his life and his thinking, and is his thinking right or wrong, and there's that kind of a feel to it because it's on the final close. So it's about that kind of thing. Because friends of mine have said that they sat down, ended up watching it all the way straight through, were bawling crying during it. So it had that it gets back to that emotional heart that you're talking about, that was in 1. But like maybe that was the case, that he was only planning 1, and then it did kind of suddenly become this.
So 2 and 3 work together. Maybe is like what I'm watching is kind of the setup for.
But the key is
I think that
the key is by the time you get to the end of season 3, if you persist, it will.
Oh, I will.
The payoff be worth it. Do you know what I mean?
I'll come back to it in a few weeks if you want, but I will stick with it. Like
2 out of 3, anyways, always ends up being a thing. You know what I mean? Think of any trilogy thing you've ever watched. And the middle one is always
middle
like
chapter syndrome.
I mean, even in Lord of the Rings, you were like, God, did I need
2 was
did I need that 4 hours in the middle?
I liked Blade 2.
The classic thing is for
That's
Doctor
not a
Who.
trilogy though. Is there not like 5 blades or something?
No, three. There is a 3. Yeah,
there's only 3.
There's only 3.
Oh.
Yeah. The classic thing is for
I
fans.
didn't know that. Thank you.
The classic thing is for Doctor Who fans of the old Doctor Who, where there were the 4-parters. You had the middle chapter syndrome. Much as I love Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who, episode 3, the middle point of the storylines, nothing ever happens.
It's like a bridge in a song.
Yeah.
Yes.
Often they're rubbish. Why
do you remember when you're watching Lost?
No.
It was like 10 years. I'm still not over it. I'm still mad about it.
Love Lost.
But stop. Don't get me started. I still get angry. It's like that teacher in school that you have a memory of, that no matter how long it's been since you're in school, you're like, oh my God. I'm scarred by it. But if you remember watching it, it was like this week, bang, bang, bang. All these things were happening. The next week, then you were like, well, sure, nothing ever. And then you were wait until next week. It's going to be amazing. And it was like as if they were kind of doing it.
But that's kind of all got a
filling
bit messed up now, though, with the way we can watch stuff all in a row.
Yes.
Like, I've watched, I think Your Honour, or there was Your Honour, I think it was, and I watched it pretty much back to back, right? And I couldn't have told you where the bad episodes were,
course.
because it was just a lull in the storyline. But someone who was watching it weekly would have gone, oh God, that was a slow episode, or didn't need to pick up next week, or might not continue with it. So it depends how you consume it too. To some extent,
completely correct. Yeah. It's changed. Our viewing habits have changed. How we perceive these things has changed.
So what are you giving?
I'll give it a 7 because it's still above average
so
show.
Far, yeah.
I
think it possibly, if there's a good enough payoff, it probably can go into the 8s.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely. Yeah, and I like that main character.
No, I haven't seen this. I haven't seen this. Friends of mine are all raving about it. Whatever. I'm not a real
Gervais
fan. I could do about 15 minutes of him and then So I was like,
did you watch Extras? That was great.
I did watch Extras, but to be honest, what I loved about Extras was all the extras.
The
You
extras.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was more everybody else who was in it, and even the way the celebrities kind of threw themselves into it and that. But as I was talking about the Clarice there, so if anybody's watching that or starts watching it, I wasn't mad about it for the first 3 or 4. It was good, it was watchable, but it was kind of like it's gotten really more into her psychological health and stuff like that. Now I'm about 5 or 6 in, and actually I'm really enjoying it. I'd give it like a 7 or an 8.
Okay, that's good. A caller says, totally agree about Belfast. The only good thing about it was the Van Morrison soundtrack. I think you had to live in Belfast or Northern Ireland to appreciate it, says another. Did any of you watch The Tourist on BBC, which ended on Sunday night after 6 weeks? That's one I've kind of marked somewhere.
I'm dying to watch it.
Jamie Dornan is in it. That's the connection there. Jamie Dornan.
I watched the first episode of it, right? And it was slow.
No, it's not meant to be a big action thing, no?
Is this not... He's out in Australia or somewhere?
Yeah.
Lost his memory.
Amnesia, and they're out to kill him.
Somebody's out to get him and he doesn't know why they're out to get him and that kind of a thing.
Hate when that happens. It's ruins my week.
Worst.
Ruins my week.
I can't do anything where people are lost in the outback in Australia. I'm still traumatised by Wolf Creek. Do you remember that movie years ago? Too much for me. Can't do it.
It's maybe it's set up well. I don't know.
Are you going to continue with it?
I don't. I will. But Jamie Dornan,
right?
Like he doesn't speak an awful lot, and I'm not sure he can. This is going to be controversial, and I might hope don't bump into him if he's ever in Donegal, if he ever heard.
But what if his agent calls in like last week? We had.
He's got one expression,
right?
So if he's not speaking, it's not really clear what he's feeling.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
How do I describe it? Maybe.
Yeah. The other thing is, somebody said to me that The Tourist was very good because, again, I had sort of put it to one side because I was too busy watching Call the Midwife.
Hudson and Rex.
Call the Midwife on a Sunday rather than watching The Tourist. But they were saying to me, his character in it is very similar to the character that he played in The Fall, which was the main, which was the big one that everybody. Well, the person I'm talking is my cousin, and in London.
He was the
Ursula,
worst thing about The Fall, though.
Oh yeah, well, see, most people thought he was one of the best things about The Fall.
Maybe I'm just not a huge fan of his, and it's it's like every one of these shows that you watch. Nothing happens for 55 minutes, and then they jam a load of stuff in the last 6 or 7 minutes to make you watch. Like
the
next happened, this happened, this happened, that happened. Keep an eye on that. Remember that.
I have been looking forward to it, but now I'm not sure.
No, don't, because because there's another one that the other one that I put you off watching, Fionnuala.
I still haven't watched.
Which is made very similar to this in that it rushes a load of stuff at the end of episode 1. It turned out to be really quite good. Yeah,
I still haven't watched that. Every time I go to click on it, I'm like, maybe there's something else. Greg said it wasn't great.
Listen, we'll be having.
I'm not going to listen to Greg because he recommended Your Honour to me, and I'm never going to finish that show.
I stand by that. I think Your Honour was a good show.
I know you do.
I don't regret that. Okay, I regret.
Are you Brian Cranston's agent?
I regret putting Fionnuala off. Stay close, but I don't regret recommending.
I know.
All right, we'll be back with more from Michael and Fionnuala after these.
The 9 till Noon Show, brought to you by Bluebird Care, providing nurse-led home care services in Donegal. Call Bluebird Care 9129562 and bring care home.
At Hickey, Clark and Langan Insurance Brokers, they compare quotes from all the leading insurers, so you get a great price. Home, motor and van, farm, holiday home, travel and liability insurance, they quote them all. So if the worst happens, you're covered. For a competitive insurance quote today, call Hickey, Clark and Langan on 9126688 or pop into their office at Ballymacool, Letterkenny. Hickey, Clark and Langan General Insurances Limited, trading as Hickey, Clark and Langan, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
All children aged 5 and over are being offered a COVID-19 vaccine. Their vaccine will help to protect them, and the rest of the family too. The advice from the World Health Organization is that the COVID-19 vaccine is safe for children this age. So if you have questions about their COVID-19 vaccine, we have answers you can trust. To register or for information, visit hsc.ie. From the HSC.
Irish fertiliser prices amongst highest in the world. For more on this week's Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
As fertiliser prices break records, don't miss our 9-page fertiliser special where we share top tips on how to reduce your fertiliser costs. Growing concerns in new department group could cap cow numbers. Farmers warn not to sell carbon credits outside the sector. And Adam Woods has 5 top tips when purchasing pedigree stock bulls.
Plus, we share tips for dealing with calving difficulties. Only inside this week's Irish Farmer's Journal. On sale now.
As you start rediscovering Northern Ireland again, we want you to explore with confidence. That's why we've introduced the We're Good to Go industry standard for tourism and hospitality businesses. So you know they've agreed to follow COVID-19 safety guidelines, like social distancing, following the recommended cleaning processes and undergoing spot checks, so you can enjoy your break to the full. Look out for the safety symbol for businesses that are good to go. Northern Ireland, we're good to go. Brought to you by Tourism Northern Ireland in partnership with UK national tourism bodies.
Highland Radio Time Checks, brought to you by Letterkenny Shopping Centre, the centre of shopping in Donegal. Free parking and shopping all under one roof. Letterkenny Shopping Centre, bringing you the time at...
The time's 11:32. I know what was wrong with Belfast. You wouldn't stop yamming the whole way through it, I would say.
We asked people who were in the cinema, because some of the listeners were there because they
yes.
recognised our voices as we were walking in.
They
were
were
like, are you
finally recognition.
Fame at last. Fame at last.
International, though, don't forget.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
Even
Where were you?
in
Lanzarote
Spain.
or something? Spain.
Yeah. I was in Spain. Right?
And the fan base came up to you?
Someone came
Voice
up.
recognised. Oh, I'm telling you, I
It
should
is
just
the buzz.
retire now while I'm at my peak. Isn't that what they say you should do?
Go out at the top.
Don't ruin it. Don't ruin it.
Go out
Just
at the
stay
top.
at your peak.
We unexpectedly found America's talent show, The Voice USA, last Friday. Continues tonight. They say it's brilliant. Hi, is the panel watching the TV series Sunday night ITV1 about the bomb squad? I find it quite good. That's the same people behind Line of Duty, and it's interviews all the same actors.
Some very sarcastic.
To show up on TV3, you know, the way on the Virgin.
Yeah, I've seen sarcastic comments on Twitter every Sunday night about how it lacks tension, and people saying things like, "Thank goodness there are ad breaks in this, otherwise I wouldn't be able to." So I kind of got put off by that, to be honest. That would kind of a lot of those comments.
I'm concerned if a movie about bomb squad people going in,
it wasn't tense.
It doesn't have any tension.
Yeah.
You're like, surely that's the whole point of it. Like, the whole point surely is the tense moment.
But that person liked it, so obviously
I was looking forward to it, I have to say now. And normally when something starts on UTV, it shows up on like one of the Virgin channels like
here,
the week after or whatever, but it hasn't. I haven't found it yet.
They say I find it good, which is not necessarily a massive, glowing, positive sort of review.
Maybe a lot of people are comparing it to Line of Duty and expecting immediately to love it.
Well, when it's the same people that are doing it, and then it's the same actors. I mean,
and they
obviously
did
people are going
Vigil, which was the same. I loved Vigil. I thought Vigil was amazing. Great tense. That was tension.
Again, I don't understand how that hasn't showed up on Netflix yet. I keep thinking it should be there by now.
Yeah, well, sure, look at. We're going to welcome on to the programme now Patrick O'Sullivan from County Cork. Hiya, Patrick. How are you keeping?
Hello there. I'm very well, thank you.
It's good to have you with us. Right, the Late Late Show tonight will see 6 Eurovision hopefuls, including Patrick, along with Janet Grogan, Rachel Good, Brendan Murray, Brooke Scullion and Miles Graham take to the stage in the hope of representing Ireland at the upcoming Eurovision Song Contest in Italy this May. Are you performing live this evening, is it?
We are performing live, yeah. I woke up this morning and kind of realised I was going to be singing on the Late Late Show.
It's a great honour in and of itself, of course.
It's amazing, yeah. I mean, it's kind of the biggest platform there is in Ireland, so I feel very fortunate to even be in this position.
Yeah, but you're not, you're no stranger to the big stage either, or to TV. You've been at it since you were 10.
Yeah, it's been a long old time. I started doing shows and stuff like that when I was 10 years old, and then when I was 17, after leaving CERT, I went away and did a degree in musical theatre, and I've done all sorts of different bits in the West End and tours and all that kind of stuff since in the last kind of 7 or 8 years.
Right, so how did your song is One Night, One Kiss, One Promise, written by Nicky Byrne, Lar Hay and Danny O'Reilly of the Coronas also involved. So that's pretty much, some of the big hitters in the Irish music scene over the last 10 or 20 years. How does it work? Are you matched with the song? Do you source the song yourself? Are you approached? Or what way did you come to be singing One Night, One Kiss, One Promise?
Yeah, like you say, it's a fairly strong caliber of songwriter there. So I did a singing show on RTE. It was the first season of it, called The Last Singer Standing, in the last part of 2021. And Nicky Byrne was the host of that show. And I went on to win that. And Nicky got to know me through that and got to know my voice. And throughout lockdown, he'd been doing lots of writing sessions with Danny O'Reilly and Lark Kay, and they'd been kind of tinkering with this song. And he gave me a call after final. He said, "Look, Patrick, we've got this song, and we think that you could put your own spin on it, and it could be a really cool, interesting new thing for Ireland to do for Eurovision." And like, when I heard the track, I just absolutely bit his hand off. I thought it had all the elements that Ireland needs to kind of get out of this rut that it's finding itself in.
Right. How's the winner tonight selected? Do we know?
Yeah, so there's three elements to it. There's a national jury of Irish music industry experts. There's an international jury of European music industry experts, and then there's also a public vote. So all the people at home can watch and pick their favorite, which will be One Night, One Kiss from Promise, and they can vote in and select that.
All right. Well, listen, we wish you the best of success with it. It's exciting, and it'll be an interesting program. I think big viewership tonight, and it will be interesting to see who goes through what song selected. Listen, great to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Take care. Right. There's an international panel. There's a national panel. And there is an audience panel. Let's see what our panel thinks of this. All right. Here we go. This is just one of the entrants. One Night, One Kiss, One Promise. I'm not saying anyone could be swayed by anything, right? But like, I would say Nicky Byrne, Lark Kay, and Danny O'Reilly know everyone in the Irish national music.
I would assume between the three of them, I'd say they've fairly got it covered.
You know, it's going to be hard to say no. But anyway, let's have a listen.
Safety somewhere here, and I suppose I should have spoken up. I think I probably should have volunteered. Oh my God, I can't complain. I appreciate that I'm not faced. I love it when you say that. Shadows, ghost-like, hiding from the bedroom lights. Can't explain this feeling. Rest your head on my heart, it's beating. Hair tossed in our eyes. Never wanna close them, time to be honest. One night, one kiss, one promise.
All right.
I like it. I think it's very nice.
Yeah,
and sort of a U2 sort of a feel or guitar thing.
What are you on about?
The beginning is completely. The beginning. See, I went to sing too.
Normally,
so
Greg
U2.
is so tolerant of
I went
everything
to
we
sing
say.
too, so all of U2 is really in my head now. But yeah, no, I liked
it too. Yeah,
I don't think it's going to win the Eurovision because I think it's too good.
Good song.
Do you think?
I you could definitely listen to it, but Eurovision seems to have gotten a little bit.
Is that the best? We haven't heard the other five, okay?
Yeah,
but I mean,
obviously,
I
haven't heard them. Yeah,
we have so much talent. I just would. Yeah. All I would want, and he is a very talented young man, and he's got brilliant backing.
Yep.
All I want sometime, and whoever it might be, is that we send something over to the Eurovision that may not necessarily be winning it, but represents the best of what we can do. And that's, for me, what's been a lacking bit, that the best of what we can do, even in this county or this region or the country, that's what we should send over, whatever it might be.
I know. I suppose the thing about that, though, in context of this, is there's so many genres and different things, and how do you pull that in? Do you remember, like, we went down the kind of semi-trad, as in... was it Niamh Kavanagh, when them she did it? She did a song there one time and kind of had a trad feel, even though it was poppy. So is that what you know what I mean? What
I don't know, but you see,
everything.
we can't win it, right? We can't win it now because of the way the scoring's done, the geography. We can't win it. So at the very least, I'm not saying we have to. It has to represent Irishness in inverted commas, but just has to feel like we're sending the best of what we can do.
Yeah.
Say for instance, who's there's a ton of them.
I know what you mean.
The guy from Ardra, what's his name? It's escapes me at the moment. Or, there's so many people that make that songs are better than what we're sending out there.
Yeah. I know,
and there was a time when people used to get a real sense of nationalism and Irishness off it. You think back.
I don't think we recovered from Riverdance.
That's true.
Mary says, I agree with you all about Jamie Dornan, but stick with it. It's good.
The tourist.
The tourist.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
We're going to be back with more from Michael and Fionnuala after these messages.
Hiring nurses and carers across Donegal. Call 9129562. Bluebird Care are sponsors of today's show.
What is it about Brennan's Bagels that people just can't get enough of? Well, according to Sophie in Dublin, a Brennan's Bagel BLT is simply OMG, whatever that means. One thing's for sure, chewy crust and soft inside. That's how our bagel bakers make them. However you slice it, anything baked is better with Brennan's. Brennan's. Today's bread, today.
Donegal Hearing Clinic, now open at Pierce Road, Letterkenny and Buncrana, now offering state-of-the-art rechargeable hearing aids free with your PRSI. Also pain-free microsuction wax removal services. Call 07491 88470 or donegalhearingclinic.ie. Life sounds brilliant with Donegal Hearing Clinic.
Lidl have something to tell you, but it's a bit embarrassing because we don't like blowing our own trumpet. We were the most awarded retailer in the Republic of Ireland at the Great Taste Awards in 2021. In other words, we're number one, like the absolute finest for great tasting food in your part of Ireland, according to the very knowledgeable judges of the Great Taste Awards. We won for loads of things, especially in our deluxe range. I mean, the judges were wild about our deluxe range. But, as I said, we don't really like talking about it. It's not about us. We're Lidl. More for you.
On this week's Business Matters, I'll be joined by the owner of Harry's Cheers Bar in Balbuffet and treasurer of the Donegal branch of the Business Federation of Ireland, Martin Hardy. So join me, Ciarán O'Donnell, for Business Matters on Sunday evening after the 6 o'clock news. The Business Matters podcast is also available to download at highlandradio.com.
Business Matters in association with Letterkenny IT's Faculty of Business. Applications are now open for the highly regarded Masters in Leadership and Innovation in the public sector. Also a Masters in Governance, Compliance and Data Protection in Financial Services. And a certificate in Online Dispute Management. Visit lyit.ie for more information.
Save on cat food this February at Maxi Zoo. Get 20% off Go Cat 10 kilo range, now just $23.99. Check out maxizoo.ie for more information. Maxi Zoo, there for you and your pet always.
Okay, back in the studio now with Michael and Fionnuala. Right, okay. Do you want to quick talk about Sing 2 to redeem the cinema?
No. Look at Belfast is one of those ones, like we were just talking to Jean there and she loved it. People are going to love it for different reasons. I think what happened to me was that I didn't get invested in it, so then every tiny little thing started getting... Every tiny little thing started driving me crazy. Like at one point, it's 1969 and Judi Dench is talking to her grandson about how much she loved the cinema. And I'm like... Given the fact that this woman looks like she's in her late 70s, was there cinema in Belfast in 1909?
You're just being mean now.
Like, that's what happened to me. I got
Judi Dench's agent will be on the phone and it'll just be embarrassing.
Judi Dench is awesome.
She's amazing.
It's about casting. It's not her or what's in it. Come here. None of you watched The Puppet Master on Netflix, no?
No.
Okay.
No, not yet.
It's quite good.
I know
actually.
it was on the thing and everybody was talking about it.
It's about a spy con man and there's sort of two timelines. He was involved with a group of young people in the early noughties, I think, and spun a web of deceit. And then there's another timeline closer to now, 20,
Was it like 8 episodes, 10 episodes?
No, it's 3 or 4. Strangely, episode 2's half an hour or something. I don't know. It's peculiar.
Yeah.
One's 45 minutes, the other's half an hour, and then another's an hour and 5. It's really well done.
I'll check it out.
Again, though, for some reason... The producers who are doing the interviews don't use a microphone. I don't understand it. Why not have a microphone? If you're asking people a question, have a microphone. I don't understand why it has to be an off-mic question, but anyway. But it's very good. I thought it was very good, and it's actually, I would imagine there'll be developments in it because it's right up until now. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, no, that's good.
Yeah, I was watching the Tinder
Swindler.
Yeah, I was watching the Tinder Swindler, which is, one, it kind of really justifies why I tell people I will never go on dating apps. I'm like, oh yeah, Totally. This is my case study of why when somebody says you should totally try it, as they all do. So the Tinder swindler is based on an Israeli guy that is on Tinder and seemed to really be attractive to women from the Netherlands, because they all seem to be from the Netherlands that I could see in it. So it's based on, obviously it's a documentary. It's done over as one film. It's an hour and 50 minutes. It's an enjoyable watch now, I have to say. I give it a 7 or 8, and it's definitely a cautionary tale, but halfway through it you're kind of like, lads. So they're on Tinder, they meet this guy, and all his photographs of him on private jets, and he's on airplanes, and private jets and airplanes are the same thing. He's on private jets, he's on yachts, he's on beaches,
boats.
He's wearing all pedals. He's all designer clothes, all this kind of stuff. His profile says that he is the son of a diamond merchant, and he makes out that he's from this big diamond family. And one can see where this is going to end up. All these lovely blonde, beautiful ladies get very involved in him. And it turns out that over the course of the last few years, he has swindled over $10 million out of women across the way. These women are insane.
Yes, but they were drawn to. Obviously.
Oh, he's hugely smart.
Yes, but he is. But also, obviously, he's portraying a lifestyle that was the hook
It's
that
seductive,
people
yeah.
caught
And-
into.
and-
So,
and-
in a way, if you are that, dare I say, shallow.
Yeah, well, the amazing thing about these women is they didn't seem to think that they were in any way.
Yeah, but if someone
I mean,
got
if he had
jets and
shown,
diamonds
if
and
this
stuff, you'd
same
probably
guy
scare
was
most people
sitting
off.
in the back of a pig lorry, I'm not sure whether they've swiped right. But they all did, and eventually he was very smart, because on the first date, he met them. He was all lovely and charming, and he obviously is a very charming guy. He was all lovely and charming, and he met them, and then he swept them away on a private jet to another country. Now, first of all, if you meet a guy on Tinder and you get on his private jet to go to another country on your own, I mean, you're asking to be in Clarice. You're going to be on alibi.
But if you open the door and someone walks in, once they've walked in, then your whole scheme's going to work.
Yeah, you have them. They're hooked.
Then
They're
he
on the
told
line.
them that he had security, and he told them that that he had enemies because he was in this diamond industry. And like one woman owed $250,000 I think in the end is what she owed, because she got an American Express
You
card.
should watch The Puppet Master.
And she didn't have any money, but she got loans. She had 9 different loans out.
Watch The
Now,
Puppet
buddy,
Master then, because
if I foolishly gave you what was in my bank account,
in the
but if I'm
first
getting a
in the
loan-
first timeline, I don't want to ruin it, but in the first time, it's remarkable what this guy is also capable of. You would not imagine.
Yeah.
You would not imagine. You can
Is it
see how
because
it works.
People take the leap and meet them halfway.
No,
isn't it?
this is not.
No.
This is not love based. This is just.
Oh no, I know that. No, yeah, I
the-
gather
the
from what
Puppet
you said.
Master.
Yeah,
But that sounds, compared to
Yeah.
what this fella did to other people, that sounds like it's only a few loans. But it sounds really good. I'm going to watch that one, I think.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting to see. It's interesting. The women are all talking about how they got caught into it, how they were kind of pulled down. I mean, one woman was going out with him for 14 months, so in fairness to her.
Wow.
But another person then was only going out with him for 3 or 4 months, and they were moving in together, and suddenly she was racking up all this debt. How they got so into believing his stories that the people were after him, and that's my enemies. Now, if you come to me and you tell me your enemies are after you, I'm out. Maybe I'm too cynical, which is probably maybe.
So if
why.
I ran in and said
Which is
someone's,
why I don't do
someone's after me,
Yes.
give me a tenner.
But if part of you goes, right.
I need the bus.
Yeah, but if part of you goes that my life has been pretty mundane and boring, and then there's this element of danger or excitement that gets the adrenaline rush
course it
going, you
clearly
can
is.
see clearly how people
works.
might go, there's
Clearly.
enough here for
Yep.
me to hang about.
This is how
Yeah.
Judi Dench got Kieran Hines on Tinder. She lulled him. She said it's exciting.
That's how she managed to marry
so
Kieran
that's what you're giving that 7 or 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I give it a 7
on
or 8 out of
Netflix.
10. It's definitely enjoyable, and it kind of goes through the whole thing of how the women end up in the situation, and then what they do about it when they start realizing what's going on.
All right. Scammer Payback YouTube.
Yeah, this is a YouTube channel, and I
Now,
have
this
become-
so can I just ask a question? Sorry, when you say YouTube, is this just something that's on YouTube?
Yes.
Or because there is YouTube Red or something?
No,
isn't
this
there?
is just something that's
This
on
just
YouTube.
sits on YouTube.
Yeah, and it's got
Okay.
like almost 2 million subscribers, and I've
Yeah.
been watching them the last few weeks, and I think it's brilliant. It's great fun to watch, but it's also really educational, and you learn a lot. So basically, there's this guy whose screen name is Pierogi, and he's based in America, and he works in cybersecurity. This is actually his job. But what he's been doing for the last couple of years now, he's not the only one that does this, but I think he's the best. He baits scammers. And we are, in Donegal, we're inundated with these phone calls and emails. I mean, it's ridiculous the number of calls I get on the Nokia, the old phone that I get. So many calls.
A lot
Crazy.
of people in foreign countries I've never been to.
This guy baits them, and he engages them for conversations that run maybe 3 or 4 hours. We get the highlights on YouTube, but if you follow him on Twitch, which is the live streaming thing, you see how he wastes their time. And a lot of people do this. There's another guy who does it as well. There's this website called 419 Ether, which has been around for like 15, 20 years. But what Pierogi does is, because he works in cybersecurity, he's able to counter-hack a lot of them. He's able to hack back,
stick it to them,
hack into their webcams. He's able to get into their own computers and delete files while they're talking. So he keeps them on the phone, fills them full of rubbish, and then he's able to actually delete. He can show us their script, the script they're working off.
Oh wow, I might check that out.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
He's able to tell them then, and then when he turns the hook on them at the end, he's able to maybe turn on their webcam. But if he doesn't do that, he's able to tell them what building they're in and what industrial estate or apartment in India. And he's able to call out things on the street, and he's able to freak them out. And he has been doing this for years, and it's awesome to watch.
Scammer Payback.
Scammer Payback is the name of the channel. You will learn a lot about. I mean, it's amazing to listen to these things, and I've watched about 20 of them in the last couple of weeks. Now, the highlights are only maybe 45 minutes long. They're not the full 4-hour conversations, but he does this all night, every night when he finishes work. But it's amazing how plausible some of these guys are, and you see how people get hooked.
100%.
They target older people, they target people who are more vulnerable, they target people who are too trusting.
Yeah.
And they will convince these people. And the way that one of the most famous favorite scams they use is that we're from Amazon. We're giving you a refund of $400. We've accidentally given you $4,000. You now owe us $3,600. We need you to send it back, or we're going to have to call the police.
Yeah.
And it's
fear.
Incredible how they. So this guy turns the tables. I love this channel.
Scammer Payback on YouTube. So we had Belfast in the cinema, around 5 out of 10, but more people in this building coming up disagreeing, saying they loved it. Clarice on Alibi, it gets better the more you watch it. A couple of people enjoying that, as well as Fanula, as Ragdoll's being repeated on that as well. The Tinder Swindler, a solid 7 or 8 out of 10 on Netflix. I'll be interested actually to hear about Pam and Tommy next week. And Scammer Payback.
It's insane.
I might watch
big
that.
thumbs up. Afterlife, midway through season 2.
Yeah.
We're the jury's
7.
out.
Yeah, I like it, but I don't love it.
All right, Michael and Fanula, see you next week. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
The 9 till Noon Show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
All ready for next year? Why not make sure of it with SEAT? Trade up to a 221 SEAT SUV and you'll be offered PCP finance from 1.9% and a 3-year service plan for just $9.99 a month. With the bold new Arona, the stylish new Ateca, or the outstanding 7-seater Tarraco, we're all ready. Are you? Trade up to your 221 SEAT SUV at DMG Motors, Claw Road, Donegal Town. Finance provided by way of hire purchase agreement from Volkswagen Financial Services Ireland, trading as SEAT Financial Services. Subject to lending criteria. Terms and conditions apply. Visit seat.ie/221 for further information.
Homeland Fuel offers, keeping you warm for less. 20 kg Super Therm, buy 5 bags, get 1 bag of hardwood logs free. 10 kg wood pellets, buy 10, get 1 free. Board Namona briquettes, buy 3 for €16. Shop in store or online at homeland.ie.
Hello, Grace. Where are you heading?
Down to Made to Measure Fireplaces in Creasla.
Made to Measure Fireplaces? Didn't you just buy a fireplace there?
Yeah, but I'm going now to pick my kitchen worktop.
Create the kitchen and living room of your dreams at Made to Measure Fireplaces and Granite Worktops. They've been in business for over 40 years, so for help choosing granite or quartz for your worktop, fireplace or stove, visit the Made to Measure showroom at Cashel Creasla or see mtmfireplaces.com or on Facebook.
Donegal Hearing Clinic, now open at Pierce Road, Letterkenny and Buncrana. Now offering state-of-the-art rechargeable hearing aids free with your PRSI. Also pain-free microsuction wax removal services. Call 07491 88470 or donegalhearingclinic.ie. Life sounds brilliant with Donegal Hearing Clinic.
The EuroMillions Mega Draw is back. And it's really big. It's actually massive. Tonight, the EuroMillions jackpot will be a guaranteed €130 million. It's just too big to miss. Play responsibly, in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Central Auto Parts really do stock everything for all makes and models of cars. Shocks, springs, wipers, mats, brakes. Need I go on? And now stocking Celimix and Sunny Car and Commercial Paint. Central Auto Parts, Portlink Road Business Park, Letterkenny. Find us on Facebook or call us on 074 9127 491.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Discover Edinburgh this summer with Ryanair's 3 times weekly service. Stunning architecture, endless winding streets and an awe-inspiring castle. Ireland West Airport. You're flying.
Okay, so the weather forecast, it will be cold, bright and blustery today. With sunny spells and widespread wintry showers with a possibility of hail and thunder. Maximum afternoon temperatures generally ranging 4 to 6 degrees in brisk west to northwest winds. Now, showers becoming isolated early tonight with frost forming in some areas as temperatures dip back to between 0 and plus 4 degrees. However, cloud will increase from the west overnight and temperatures will then rise. Outbreaks of rain will then develop later. That's where we have to leave it on the programme for this week. Thank you to all of you who listened to the programme, took part in the programme, or indeed if you watched the